I have no idea what's going on. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Unbelievable. Unfucking believable, man. None of that. I'll take care of it. I will message them. None of what I said was harassing or bullying or anything. Nope. It has nothing to do with the title of the live. Again, welcome back. Are you kidding me? Bullying, harassing. Who's I harassing? Who was I bullying? There it is. Okay. Happy Mother's Day, Leland, to all the human and mom animals. All the human and animal moms. It's gonna be a long one, guys. Battle up. Oh, that's what they said right there is harassing. This is what they said. Dude, jailer talking. I think was that a members of moms? It's gonna be a long one, guys. It's down here. It was me highlighting Murky's super chat. I just played the clip that they said it was bullying, harassing. So what that was is they got a bunch of people to at the same time go in there and start clicking, and yeah, so we'll take care of that. I have a pretty good idea who it is. But that's literally, they said, I can't even believe that. You can see an example around 5 minutes and 2 seconds. And so I said, okay, play 5 minutes and 2 seconds. This is it. It's me. It's me. It's me saying thank you to Murky for my super chat. It'll be reversed. It will be 1000% reversed. Gotta love it. You know you're doing something right when you got so much hate. Everybody's so mad that I'm talking about Karen Reed. Karen Reed and Turtle Boy in their fucking horrible behavior. Their horrible behavior. I love it. I fucking love it. Bring it, bitches. Murky, it's all your fault. Let's catch up on those likes. Dude, you know what though? This is bullshit. Because that type of stuff is what happened. Like, I mean, that could get me out of working for a week, if not longer. What's the name of this title? WSU continued Mother's Day Live. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, as I was saying, I just don't buy it. I want to know Xana's pattern of life activity for on the weekends and after she would buy DoorDash. I don't believe that Xana would wait an hour and 30 minutes, an hour and almost 40 to say, are you having trouble finding the place? You have an app on DoorDash, and literally you watch the car drive around. Um, Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Change something here. Okay. We don't have a timeline for Xana at all. We don't have a timeline for Ethan at all. And I think so. I think it's just really telling, though. You have, so this is the other thing that I think is interesting. It's college. If I hear this commotion, someone yelling and screaming, okay, why isn't Xana using her phone to call any of the roommates upstairs when someone's screaming? You're going to sit here and tell me. And this is why they believe. So, like, let me explain this. They believe that there's multiple perpetrators because they've and that everybody was being attacked at the same time, because there's just no way that this isn't being alerted to, aka not just to Dylan and Bethany, but like Ethan and Xana, right? And it's like, well, all of this seems like a blitz attack to me, and but could it be done at different times? Because people were coming home at different times. But I'm like, why is everybody totally missing the biggest like evidence? Like, if you just look at this case and you had to take out Bethany and Dylan and take out anything that they said, I think what if you think that somebody let in the dog, why couldn't somebody have gotten the DoorDash that wasn't the intended DoorDashee, right? And then end up eating it because somebody forgot it, went to bed, they thought, or but at the end of the day, it's so just right in your face. 252, 253, everything stops. But for Xana to get a phone call and Bethany, neither of them answer. And then they don't at any point in time like call them back or text them back. Especially Xana here, if she's supposedly up and waiting for her DoorDash, she's just not using her computer. She's not using her phone at all to like post it on the internet, make snaps, do whatever, like just nothing. Again, everybody thinks that okay, if Kaylee is such a jokester, such a prankster, right? Could she be at all like telling anything to Jack D that night? Okay. And either A, he's just not believing her, okay? Or B, he's just so drunk that he's like just whatever, like in one ear, not the other ear, and he falls asleep while they're talking about whatever Kaylee is saying. And if Kaylee is such a jokester and a prankster, okay, and Kaylee wants to try to get Jack D over to the house, so she's like saying stuff like, "Oh my God, someone's in the house," and acting like all crazy like that. Well, Jack D's over here just like, she's just doing this to get me over there, right? But he doesn't remember any of that because he was drinking. Then he passes out during the conversation for the 17 minutes or whatever. Because then what it potentially looks like is everybody always thinks or is saying that there was some type of like somebody hung up on somebody, or somebody hung up to then try to use, then if I disconnect, I can call back and maybe like the ring or the vibrating will wake him up. Okay. Cause then it's just like shotgun one after the other after the other. Like she's just calling him, meaning Jack D. Again, everybody and their mother is saying that Kaylee and Maddie wouldn't have called Jack D for help. They would have called 911. And I'm over here just like, I don't know about that. It depends on what they're seeing. It depends on what's happening. If Kaylee and Maddie thought that just like, I don't know, let's just that there was just some argument downstairs. I'm only throwing this out to say Jack D to the people in Idaho, he was like their number one suspect because of what happened to Kaylee. Because it was like, this is a crime of passion. This is overkill. That's what it was. And I'm over here thinking like, well, what if Kaylee walked in and that person was so angry because I had Maddie all to myself that like I took it. But no, according to textbooks, this is what Brent Turvey I think is going to talk about. Thank you for that, by the way. Good vibes only. Appreciate that. And anyways, when it comes to this case and I compare it to the Drake case, to me this looks like a classic extending someone's life, and or these investigators like aren't understanding Dylan's not making any sense. It's just so unreliable. What she could be texting could have happened way earlier. You know, when she just decided to go to bed and lock her door because she was just so scared and like, I'm just going to stay in my room. And then she's awoken when she's dozing off again after she was, saving somebody's phone number in her phone, to Bethany calling. And that's the exculpatory part, is that this is Dylan, Bethany calling to alert Dylan to then saying whatever she's talking about after that. The way that it happened at 4:20 in the morning isn't Dylan's recollection. Dylan's recollection of something totally different, because she's the one that's hearing everything that she claims. And it's like, okay, Dylan, the way that I see that you're not a liar is if that happened at like 2:52. Like, that's what would make sense. Okay. And then when she gets up an hour after that, like 3:51. You guys think about this. At 3:51, Dylan's up on her phone, saves a number. And then what happens a couple minutes later? Ta-da. Xana's phone is used at 3:54 and saying, "Are you lost?" And what I told Chris Whitcomb when I talked to him, like either after the interview that I did or like in a separate occasion, I said, you know where the stairs are that go upstairs to the first floor, to the second floor. I said, when you're coming up and down off of that, like to come like walk up, like there's that window. And if you're like what Molly described of somebody like going like up and down, up and like, that's somebody that's like going down the stairs, coming back up the stairs, going down the stairs, like that, like coming into that window. I was like, there is what Molly's talking about, like the upper, and Payne's trying to say, like, ask her which one it was. You guys, that was not the bathroom of the third floor. Okay. Who the fuck is up on the third floor awake because they're saying everybody's asleep up on the third floor in the bathroom that's coming up and down of that out of that window? It's not that window. The window is the living room window. And, and Payne should have like been showing like, hey, there are these windows that are up here. Like she wouldn't even seen those windows. There was nobody up there. And if somebody is up there, then you have a big fucking problem, in my opinion. Because Dylan never said that she went to the third floor. Who was up on the third floor at 3:54 in the morning? Who's awake at that time? You're going to put Maddie and Kaylee awake? Maddie and Kaylee haven't used their phone since 2:53. I think Maddie and Kaylee are fucking dead. I think Maddie and Kaylee are being attacked. And I think that the police thought that as well. But what the police are going to tell you is that, no, that makes sense because that's what Dylan heard. Dylan heard Kaylee go to bed. Well, no, Dylan heard what she thought was Kaylee and Murphy going upstairs, and then her saying there's someone here, right? And then running down the stairs. And the first thing that she thought to do was get up out of her bed and go lock the door. Well, then I thought about that and I'm like, that's interesting. I'm curious if there's any steps on Dylan's phone at 3:54. Why 3:54? Well, between 3:51 and 3:54, if there's steps, that means I don't know. Is she trying to say that that's what she did because she walked over and used somebody else's phone? Was she just using Xana's phone? Because remember, the phone that was by Xana's head was Ethan's. Did Dylan or whoever mix up the phones and put the wrong phone next to what's her name? Xana on the ground and throw the wrong phone in the bed? Why would Ethan's phone be on the floor next to Xana? I mean, there are so many problems with this crime scene and the timeline together. Like when you're trying to match up the crime scene and timeline together. No, Anna, Xana's account was accessed via Dylan. That is what the data proved. Well, but I think that's what I'm saying here. But the data hasn't proved anything because we don't have the data. Until I physically have that shit in my hands, this is the worst shit I've ever seen. This is a joke. I have no idea what the fuck Ann Taylor was doing. But her timeline, like all those expert reports, their timelines, like Tom Slavinsky, just so you guys know, Ray didn't do anything to do with like getting into these people's phones and looking through them. And he does location. So it'd be like, where was this person when they did X, Y, and Z? Okay. So if Cy mapped out anything to do with them, it would have been based on their phone's location at different points. And we're not just talking about the 13th. We're talking about, a pattern. And you'd want a lot of data for that, a lot of days. So curious what he did. But the people that would have gotten in the phones and to find the artifacts, like that's Josiah Roloff. That's who Dan Moore had. Tom Slavinsky. And I thought they had another person. And they have like a husband and wife too. just like the Barnharts. But yeah, we need their reports. Oh, and let me tell you why no one's releasing anything, by the way, because of these NDAs. I wasn't going to say it, but now that the cat's out the bag, that's why Cy Ray couldn't do my interview. I couldn't come out and talk about an NDA like that either because you're not supposed to talk about NDAs. But since Ann Taylor has now talked about these NDAs, I can talk about them. All these experts, not only did they have the gag order, but she had personal NDAs with them. Okay, so Cy Ray couldn't do my show because of the personal NDA. His NDA until he's released from it. But these NDAs were like, not to talk about your opinion about the case, all the stuff. Okay. And so when people were like, Lana, I couldn't say anything. I meant to actually start my live off today with that. That was my Mother's Day gift, you guys. I was like, okay, Ann Taylor and I talked about the NDAs. I'm going to talk about the NDAs, the non disclosure agreements. Those non disclosure agreements, everybody had them. And so it's like, that's when I was like, well, once your report gets released, can we talk about your report? Can we do? And it was like all lined up. And then Anne was like, nobody's talking because of these NDAs, and I'm not releasing anybody yet. So hopefully that, and then obviously, then this whole like Dateline leak, which we're going to get into, that was going to be the second half of my show. God, do you guys understand how good the show was going? I feel like I'm gonna have to freaking put this shit back out there, but all that stuff in the beginning of the show before I had to restart this live, all of that stuff, like banging. If you guys want to know what reports I'm talking about, though, it's like 190. Let's see. I talked about 198, 195, 193, and 197. Because it goes with the bastards. And now the two, like, there's just no way Xana would have a ton more on her phone. She would have been doing a ton more. Emily Allant just said that she didn't Venmo Xana anything, just so you guys know that. I think she made a comment on, I don't know what platform it was, but it was sent to me. And I said, what is this shit? This one right here. $351. Dylan creates phone contact for Brittany, but then also Emily Allant's Venmo to Xana for $14. And the source is BB card for Emily. So bank, I don't know, but let me tell you something. They got into the financials of Emily Allant. Listen, Josie's on a vacation. Her, Emily, a Hunter, who else? Jenna. All of the stuff that we're missing, like they got into these people's financials. The FBI is why we're missing all this stuff. They did all their interviews with the FBI. Yes. So also just so you guys know, this isn't Chris's timeline. Okay, this is Bill Thompson's timeline. Okay. And what I want is I want the 108 page timeline. Okay, this is nowhere close to being 108 pages. What he put in. So he just took it from there, like from Bill's. So this isn't his. This is not his personal timeline. Karen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for fighting corruption. Thank you. Yeah. Lana, get your shit together. I hate YouTube. I didn't do anything wrong. Which being good, yeah. Somebody who has man titties is a crybaby. Anyways, there's stuff that's in Xana's room. The sauce that they were dunking those fries in, that sauce was from Taco Bell, I believe. Me and Bella did like deep dives on Taco Bell and what they had going on in 2022. So, Chris didn't know who the Cowboys were. I don't think the errors are intentional at all. It just has to be defined. Was it his typo errors or was it Bill Thompson's? Because these errors are exactly how they were in Dan Moore's case. And I had to show them. And I mean, I was right. Van Leeuwen's wrong. He's an idiot. But it's very similar how they do, like how they fucked shit up in that case to this case when you're talking about timelines. But to write off that this didn't happen and nothing happened after 253, that's when it looks like stuff happened. At least upstairs. Fuck yeah. Those phones are never used again. Who goes from just shotgunning? Tell me when you've ever just shotgunned your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? And then all of a sudden you're just like, man, fuck this. Phone down, head plant, bed. Never. If you're saying that you've ever done that, I think that you're lying, okay? So let's be real about that. Yeah, I'll give you that, CC girl. Watched her live from last night, and I'm so unsettled about Karen Reed and her team. I know, I can't fucking believe it. That's why they didn't get any calls on the case. This is why they didn't get that evidentiary hearing for the phones, from McCabe's phone and Albert's phone. Now I know why she declined everything. It's ever since Turtle Boy got on the case, Turtle Boy fucking ruined Karen Reed, man. Absolutely ruined that broad. He's going to prison, so it doesn't fucking matter. He can go take a snaggletooth and enjoy being prison daddy. Anyways, any news about Dylan's? I just put in a bunch of FOIAs. Actually, I'm going to be putting in another one tonight because I have to do this for the Latah County share. I'm going to go for the Latah County Prosecutor's Office for this 108 page Bill Thompson's timeline from the this. We're going to get this. I want all of it. Their own investigation doesn't tell you what came first. Like, when was there any discussion about what Dylan's statements were? When was there any discussions about Bethany's statements? Bethany's exculpatory evidence was that she heard a firecracker, firework, whatever, and that she's, more importantly, ready, where her bed was. I went back and looked at those pictures. Where her bed was, you guys, how could she see anything underneath her door from where her bed was in that bedroom? Let me show you. Let me see if I can find a picture of this mess. I was going through it. Where her head would have been. Okay. I think those pictures are down at the bottom over here. Oh, okay, actually. Hold on. Let me share these. That's the exculpatory evidence for Brian Colbert, because you guys say that he's going through the where? Out the back? This person didn't go out the back. Yeah, see those napkins over there, Susanna's room? Those napkins over there? More warning. We gotta get downstairs. They take like so many pictures of that. No. I thought it was like, maybe it's not these ones. Maybe it's back over here. I got so many of these fucking pictures. You guys, look at how lit this place is. I mean, it's just so wild. Okay, is this? Oh, that's the car. Wait, what? Interesting. Eric Gower's car. Okay, here. Okay, look at. This is all we need to see. Okay. Fuck. That door. So, okay, ready for this? See how all the lights were on? When, like, usually when you would wake up in the morning and the lights, and it's already like light outside, okay? Um, you don't have to like turn on lights or whatever, but all these lights were on. All these lights were on. So you're scared shitless, right? And then you, hold on. See that switch right there? Her head, if all the lights are on, you, how can you see any type of firework? Thank you. She just a devil woman. Oh, has anybody seen Devil Wears Prada 2? Is it worth going to? I want to see that. I told you guys to watch Michael. It's really good. I think there's going to be a second one. It's going to start in 1988. Okay. Yeah, if you have all the lights on in the house, I'm sorry, but you're not seeing like a firework. And where her head would have been, I think it's a really interesting angle. If I was scared of that, I wouldn't say or breathe behind the door. Now, at let's say we know that Bethany's either on the phone at 2:31 or 3:31, okay? 2:31 or 3:31. And she's that's saying that there's phone activity, okay? Um and they refuse to give us the page number of her cellular device where that is coming from, okay? Now, she told Blaker that she shut off her iPad. She shut off her iPad because that's what she was watching Baby Daddy on, and then went to bed. Okay. There is no iPad, none, in Bethany's room. Can anybody find it being an iPad being taken out of through the evidence log of an iPad being taken out of Bethany's room? Because maybe I missed it. So does anybody? That would be, and when you downloaded her iPad, you'd be able to tell. Same thing as like an iPhone. It's going to be able to do all the commands like your Celebrate download. Okay, you're going to get all of that. No, she didn't put it in her car. Bethany didn't have a car there. Okay, so I don't have an iPad, not on the evidence log, right? I went through the evidence log. I was like, but maybe I missed it. So have any of you guys seen it? Okay. So, but this is what she said that she did. She said that she shut off her iPad and that she went to bed. Okay. So her phone says that she was either on her phone at 2:31 or 3:31. There was phone activity. What's the end game here? Have a good night. That's the end game. So always have a good night here. So what you're supposed to do as an investigator when you interview people, you're supposed to corroborate their statements. So, okay, hey, where's that iPad at that you used? Okay, where's the iPad? I mean, just the easiest thing. Okay, and we would know what time the iPad was. You know, every like you click it to shut it off. You're running that to watch Baby Daddy. Then when asked about, I don't remember what episode I was watching, and I don't remember where it was. Same thing with Vampire Diaries. I don't remember what episode, and I don't really know about the show. Hmm. There you go. Let's talk about that. Just how did the grand jury indict Brian Koberger? They struggled. They weren't able to indict him, right? They didn't even attempt to try to do it, right? Until May, beginning of May. And they used false evidence, right? What did they use at the grand jury? Well, false evidence is false evidence. Okay. I don't recall Bethany being asked about an iPad. She offered it up. She said she was watching Baby Daddy on her iPad. We went over this. She did. And the question would be is, okay, well, when you search her room, you didn't find an iPad. That's a problem, don't you think? And I don't know why she would be saying that she watched it on her iPad. She doesn't have a TV in her room, does she? Yep, she has a Fire Stick in the back of her television. I was watching it on my iPad. Okay. Well, there's no iPad. They didn't take one into evidence. And how about this? If you have to lie about something like that, that means that there's a reason for the lie. Okay. Just like even when people are innocent, they lie for stupid reasons. It happens all the time. But people, and that's what people like, um, someone selling drugs. They're like, I cannot say why I was over there because I was selling drugs. Okay. But I was over there to sell somebody so and so drugs. So I lie and I say I was just home. I didn't do anything that night. Then they find out, then they see your car on surveillance and they're like, well, you weren't at home. You lied to us. Why'd you, now we think that it's for some other reason. When really it was just like, well, it was because of drugs and I can't tell you about that. Okay. And then here in this case, they say, we don't care about the drugs. We don't care about this. We don't care about that. We don't care about the underage drinking. We don't care about the drug use. So they're getting all these passes that are never said to people ever in when do you go find me cases where they're just like, we don't care about, like, they're just like, we just need to know about it. Because we need to understand the motive as to why these 4 people were killed. Okay. Allie Tally gives away 10 Truth and Transparency memberships on Mother's Day, Mother's Night, Mothers Unite. If you went green, Allie Tally all day. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that the fuck. Vampire Diaries, Baby Daddy. And now do I believe that she was using her phone at 2:31 or at 3:31? And where it falls in this makes me believe that it was 3:31. And then what's interesting about that is that's when the white car comes for the first time. 3:31. So let's take this down. I personally believe that somebody in this house was talking to the plainclothes cops. That's my personal belief. And I'm allowed to keep it up on the board until I can take it off the board. I believe that there was people in this house that were talking to the police and providing them information. Now, Bethany had just gotten a quote unquote car accident. She was tailgating too close behind, and that was October 12th. Okay. What these lovely people like to do is when you get in trouble like that, you help us out and we won't be writing you up for a DUI. Okay. It's notorious over there in those parts. You scratch our back, we scratch yours. Also, it was really interesting who was in the car in front of her and who was in her car. A woman that was in the car that got hit. She works for the university and she wanted to call to the police because I went and paid to get this report. And she wanted to make sure that her kid's name was redacted from everything because she knew that the report was going to be like FOIA'd. All of these people had something to do with the people that were in the front car and in Bethany. There was more people. It wasn't just Bethany by herself. She was in a vehicle with WSU sorority sisters. And the people that she rear-ended, they, at least one of them, worked for the university, I believe. Um, 10 memberships went out. If you turned green, Bunny Murphy. What a name. Happy Mother's Day, Bunny. If you are a mother, happy Mother's Day, whether it's of humans. Allie Tally, same with you. If you are a mother, even if they're not of humans. Last time I talked about that though. Who drove the light blue RAV4? Anyone know? That was Kaylee's car before she turned it in, I thought. Uh what's her name had a RAV4 though too, but it was tan. Kaylee had a RAV4, like a Subaru or something. But anyways, yes, happy Mother's Day, everyone. Yes, yes, yes. Father to many, married to none. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Remember, Ann Taylor went after everybody's cars. She wanted to know the fleets of every car that Moscow Police Department owned. Okay. And she also wanted to know everybody's personal use vehicle that worked for the department. You guys. Your habeas that you can file one day. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, okay, yeah. So if Bethany over here, I don't know what these people drove or anything like that, but if I need to get information out of somebody, it's like, hey, I'm gonna swing by because remember I have to keep going back to this dude that wants to talk about his loops that he was making, that he made none. And his name would be Jacob Tisdall. Look at this. So Jacob Tisdall over here. I'm gonna pull up, this one. This is all the cars. Okay, 2:29, 11 seconds. A Dodge van leaving from the side of the house. Seen on Malenta from 1112 cam heading towards the Moye residence. That's like a different vehicle. That wasn't the Dodge. But I thought that could potentially be the Moye residence. Someone's coming home from there. Car enters 1112 and goes to the Jack D's area and leaves. You remember, like, okay, there's just everybody lied in the beginning, man. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near the King Road house. Like Eric Gower telling Blaker that he never went back there for a drop off or a pickup. Then when he was interviewed by Idaho State Police, that changed dramatically. Dramatically. Okay. I'm telling you, the boyfriends of the girls that talked about that kid he was picking people up in different cars all the time. That was interesting to me. That's interesting to me. I just received my book. Yes, Broken Plea. There you go. Chicken head. Bark, 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 bark. Corn Dad, 5 Truth and Transparency memberships. 25 memberships for people. That's sweet. This is what me and Mark have been working on to see that we believe that there's two cars working with each other. Because this is during that right before the body cams go on. Eric Gower at 314. Let's see. 331. I don't know, guys. $252. If I believe that there's two cars working in tandem, oopsies, and literally that's when hey, we're just gonna stop these people. How about this? How are the people that are on the body cam not? Who interviewed them? Who interviewed the people that got stopped? Why were they never asked, hey, what party were you coming from? We need to know what party you were coming from. Are you coming from King Roadhouse? There is not a single person that has been interviewed in any of the reports we have, unless the FBI did it, of, hey, oh yeah, I got stopped by the undercover cops. How about Saeed, whatever his name is? Where's his interview? He's got some really bushy eyebrows. That alone should have got him interviewed. But how are those people not being interviewed? You'd want to ask them where they were coming from. What party were you at? Why is this kid saying that he was coming from a kid named Matt's house? Matt who? I just think it's wild. Like, how did you plan to solve this case when you didn't investigate the case? You guys, not any of those kids that got stopped for minor in possession physically they didn't have backpacks. They didn't have anything in their hands. How are they getting a ticket? How are they getting a ticket? What was your probable cause to stop me while I'm walking? The fuck? And you guys do know that all of those tickets got dismissed. Every single ticket that night got dismissed. The guy with the sign, nothing. The kids that were in nothing. Nothing was prosecuted. Look at all these memberships. Everybody's green. They're going to be like, are you doing a members only live tonight, Leanna? Thank you guys. Thank you all. Turning the chat green. Sea of green in here. Leanna, oh my God. Who said they came from a Matt's house? I know. That's what they said when they were asked the questions. When they were asked where they were coming from with their friend Matt. You know? And so it's like, Matt. It's like Matt. I mean, I get it. I would probably be throwing out a fucking fake name too. I mean, right? So is it a Matt? Who knows? But hell, if we don't have those interviews, the feds, either they were not interviewed or the feds did them. And so that was like my big thing with Chris. I said, hey, you do understand that there's only combined like 200 and I think it's like 12 Idaho State Police reports that equal like 562 pages, I think. Then there's the Moscow Police Department. They have 319 reports. Off the top of my head, I mean, I don't know, like 600 and some, maybe more pages. Let's just even say 1,000. You have 59,000 files. What I and the rest of you guys are working with is literally one that, like, we have nothing. We have nothing. And so I'm like, dude, I need to get this shit. Like, I don't want anybody's personal. I'm not interested. I'm not harassing nobody. That's not what I want. I want to put together a very, very comprehensive timeline. That's it. That's it. A very comprehensive timeline. One then that you can then, when things get rolled out, it's like, Stop talking about it. It can't be a possibility, you know? Um, I was over here looking, I'm like, Dylan taking this private driver. I'm about That's one of the new photos I put in. When they're working with this, and it's like, let's also ask ourselves a question. Um, hmm. Dylan, what are the odds though that Dylan would know? Think about this. She's like, yeah, no, this started around like 4. It's like, Dylan, this didn't start until like 4:20, but fine, 4. If she would have said like this started around like 2, like 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let's look. 3 o'clock in the morning. This starts at like 2:52, 2:53. The fuck, we have all the undercovers over there, and then they turn the body cams on, and they're just um dealing with this. And then we got Eric Gower coming back to the area, drives back by 1127, drops off potential, but for sure picks up 2 people and leaves at 3:14 and some change. 2 girls at 1112 leave house and get into a car and back up and leave. Let's see, Xana orders a DoorDash at 2:15. Car comes in and passes by 1122 King Road House, and based off of the lights, we believe it parks halfway up on the left side of the hill. Whose car is that? That's coming right around the same time. That's what I think is an undercover. And then when Eric Gower drops them off, he says there was a car scene. There it is. Eric says, when I dropped them off, there was a car parked up on the left. Like he could see it was like a sedan. And that would be this car that just had gotten there, like right before him. And with that car, and that makes sense because that car enters and goes towards 1122 King Road House, but it's never seen on the Linda Lane footage, meaning like the roundabout. And so this is that car that he mentioned seeing a silver sedan. And that would be a whole hour before that they take down the people with but there was a different vehicle for that because this isn't that one because this one never leaves. At least it could potentially be what I believe is the car that speeds away. The car that speeds away at they were all up in that area. But hella shit going on. Hella shit going on at 2:52, 2:53, 2:51, right before it. And the people that it's hella shit going on around there is all cops, all undercovers, plain clothes, whatever the fuck you want to call them. They were parked, one of them were parked in the whites, okay? And one of them, I believe, was parked up top. And I believe the people that were parked up top was the 154 car that came in, pulls off to the left. And then we don't know what time, like Tisdall and his vehicle came in. They went into the whites. Okay. So they basically are surrounding the whites. And now guess what? We always thought that it was the Queen Road Apartments that was the sketch apartment. And when they were saying that the apartment's like behind us, dude, they thought there was the stalker that they were talking about lived in the whites, not in Queen Road Apartments, lived at the whites. And so when I just break down all my shit, I'm like, dude, 2:52 a.m. fucking hog heaven up in that motherfucker. Girls never fucking phones never work again. People are now not just the people that get stopped by the police, right? Minors in possession. The fuck, nobody's carrying anything. And then they're talking about, we didn't know, we thought that you guys were just playing with us. We thought that you guys were fake cops. Remember all this shit? Yeah, fake cops. We thought you guys were a frat, like the frats just messing with us. But that's when there's no phone activity on Xana's phone. Nothing with Ethan. Nothing with Ethan for like a long time. And everybody wants to believe that this went down because Dylan Mortenson's text messages. Fuck all that. That car doesn't mean shit. That car speeding away and doing all that loop-de-loop shit, I'm sorry, doesn't mean damn thing. Just like the truck in the Drake case doesn't mean shit because Brian Drake was killed already. So a car that gets over there at 331 for the first time because it was somewhere at 326 in like the middle of the road. And then they actually like say that it was a different car than, but none of that matters. And also, I think what Cyray can prove is that there's no way that that's Brian's car. How? Because he went a different route. And if the cops go that route, he's not able to get over there that quick. He's not the Floyd's car. And so if this happened earlier, who did it? Now, unless you want to start thinking like how if Brian tried to get away with the perfect crime, which would make sense to me. Okay, nobody's going to go and be seen on all of those cameras, just loop-de-loop-de-loop. He just is just driving into town like there. You don't have him leave it. That car you don't have leaving. That car you don't have arriving. And so you cannot just make shit up. You cannot speculate. And that's what Ann Taylor was saying. Your Honor, we cannot just have people speculating up here on the stand. And Your Honor, Hippler is like, well, experts can testify. Who is going to testify that a car came from Washington? There was no car coming from Washington. And you just can't testify this shit that's just not there. And you cannot speculate. Like that has even experts can't speculate. They can give their expert opinion on the data, but there is no fucking data. There is no car coming from, you have no video of a car crossing the border to get into Idaho. You know what else I think is pretty interesting? That Brian Cover's phone is shutting off at 2:54, right? Right after Kaylee and Maddie are blowing people up. And then Brian Cover's phone, it's almost like fucking A. Remember, I know they got to Brian Kober way earlier, and I know they got to him by some type of like someone giving him that name up. If this has anything to do with undercovers and um getting like names of people because you're trying to use the students to get to who's the person that's selling the shit. We don't want the fucking little person. We know what they did on WSU's campus back like 5-6 years before this. Maybe not even. It wasn't that long. They used a girl that was in one of the sororities. I think it was the same sorority as Maddie, but and she wouldn't roll. Um, like, how can that not be ironic? But you can't, like, none of this is ironic if people are getting killed at 2:53 and you want to say that this phone is what you're basing where Brian Culver is. Jesus, he's not even there. He's in Washington. How lucky would somebody get that you see a masked man and not only do the roommates say that they don't even go to check on anybody, okay? Because what are they so scared of? You guys, their normal policy with themselves is to arm themselves with golf clubs and to go hunting in the house for like they don't. Did you call people over when did you call Hunter Johnson over the last time that this happened? No, you just armed yourselves with his golf clubs and went hunting, you know what I mean? The only way that you're scared of something has to scare you. What it looks like to me is that somebody called somebody to come over because they saw what they saw. And then somebody kept circling, like not knowing what the fuck to do. Oh my God, like what do we do? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You don't understand. Like, oh my God. I don't know. That's just what it seems to me. And then what if you think, okay, so if these people who's Dylan and Bethany, at least just one of them, if someone's telling you, oh my God, this has to be so and so, because maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't even go upstairs. I don't know. So you just see Ethan and Xana, let's just say, and then stuff starts going off in your head with just like why this would have happened to them. And you think that so and so did it, and you know these people, and you just like so then you're like gonna lie about, okay, hey, just say this happened that you ran downstairs and then like what? Like what? What the fuck? Nobody thinks it's crazy that on the same day that they're playing either a you're cheating game or they asked everybody, was Xana cheating on Ethan? Would Ethan cheat on Xana? Now do we understand why? Oh yeah, because there's this fucking text that's being said that Xana's cheating on you or you're getting cheated on right now. I don't think that it was asked enough. Like, hey, who's Erica? Does anybody ever know Erica that we can interview? Who's Erica? Whose account is this? Very bizarre. 2 o'clock is a very dark hour. What's pointing to anything happening at 4? What was it? A thud. A thud, and then the dog starts barking. Well, the dog was missing. Maybe the dog came back over and is trying to bark to get back in the house. I don't know. Fucking no. Fucking A. But it's just Dylan's the. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy to me that a 2:15 DoorDash and a message at 3:54. And it's like, yep, that person's alive. What? What else? What were they doing between 2:15 and 3:54? Nothing. What if like it comes out and the evidence shows that Xana's phone is doing nothing? Do you think that would be weird? Remember they first thought that they could pinpoint that Xana went upstairs because of like her steps or whatever, and they realized that there are no steps with her phone. So then they didn't think that she went upstairs and got like, and also like, then the blood wasn't right. But you know what? We always thought that there just wasn't no steps at that time. Maybe this, when I say maybe the steps were there, but just the blood wasn't. And so they're like, we got to just stop talking about this. Stop talking about this. I don't know. These people are idiots. When does what's Xana's phone movement like? What's Ethan's phone movement like? Again, explain to me if Xana's on her phone with TikTok at 4:12, then why is Ethan's phone next to her head? And her phone is in the bed. Oh, I'm all for that it started at 1. I'm all for any time. I'm telling you, any time between. I'm all for the fact that what it seems like is that Kaylee and fucking Maddie saw something. Kaylee and Maddie saw something that they were not supposed to see. That's what it looks like to me. Their phones going crazy. And everyone's just like, no, that she just likes to blow people up. She just likes to blow people up. That's what she'll do. Okay, well, what happens if she's just blowing somebody up? And I get it that Kaylee is blowing up Maddie. Maddie's what she calls Jack the times that she needs to call Jack, right? We don't even know if that's. But then the Xana and the Xana call and the Bethany call and not calling Dylan, that's some shit. That's some fucking shit right there. Why wasn't Dylan called? Well, because Dylan's the one that's bugging out. Dylan's the one that's all fucking bloody. And oh my God, Dylan's fucking nuts right now. We have no idea what the fuck's going on. She's raging on everybody. You know, like, wait, what? Why aren't you calling Dylan? Dude. So Jack D calls Kaylee right after the 17 minutes is up. Then she calls him again, calls him again, calls him again. Waits 3 minutes, calls him again. Then waits 3 minutes, and either Maddie calls him back to back 3 times. And then after Maddie, now this is what the other thing I said. I said, if the dog's missing, okay, Maybe that's why Maddie would call Jack D. Okay, but how about this? If the dog is missing, then Maddie calls Xana, right? Maddie calls Bethany, but Maddie never calls Dylan. If the dog is missing, those cell phones would have so many steps on them because you're walking around looking for the dog. Okay. You're not, your dog doesn't run off. You don't know where your dog is, and you're sitting on your fucking ass. Okay. It's according to Bethany that, now, Bethany, how do you know that it was Maddie that came down and said, "Hey, do you have Murphy?" Like, how long? Remember, Blaker said, "Look, how long after that was?" And she just couldn't remember. Bethany was like, Bethany would have just been asked a ton more questions. Like, why wasn't Bethany ever questioned again? Well, Bethany had a lawyer. And I think that Bethany was like not talking anymore. Anybody ever wonder that? Why is there all these interviews with Dylan? Where's the fucking FBI's interviews? Dylan was interviewed, I think, twice with the FBI. Where are those interviews? Quinn Kelly was tracked there by his phone. That is not true. Who's putting this shit out there? But you guys, none of that evidence is out there. Promise you that. How about Bethany and Dylan were in the same hotel room on Sunday night. Then they don't know who took them there, but neither one of them had vehicles. Would love to know who drove Bethany and Dylan to Boise. Because then Bethany and Dylan went to Boise on Monday. And then Bethany's parents flew to Boise to pick up Bethany to fly her back. And I don't know if they left on Tuesday. Okay. So when you're talking about like these interviews, so you have November 13th and the 14th and then November 15th, because Bethany was interviewed on the 16th. So that's Sunday, then this Monday, then that's Tuesday. Oh, because Dylan was then interviewed on the 17th. So another thing that should just really worry us all is that if you're planning on Blaker going to Nevada to go interview Bethany on the 16th, why didn't you take the sheath and take it? Why didn't you take the sheath and drop it off? Why would you be doing all this crazy shit? Okay, so Sunday they slept in the hotel. Monday night they slept in Boise together. And I'm guessing Emily Allant, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Emily and Hunter, because then Emily and Hunter went to Mexico. Okay. So they're together this night. They're together on a Monday night. And then, like I said, Bethany's parents flew to Boise to fly her back. And I don't know if I don't know if they ended up staying that night and then flying back on the Tuesday. But then she was interviewed on the 16th, and it was right before the press conference. And then Dylan got to hear the press conference and be interviewed on the 17th. And so Dylan, so and then you have Jenna McClure over here talking about how there was problems in paradise when it comes to these sorority houses and this fraternity stuff. Okay. Do you know how fucking bad? Why does a WSU police chief, Gary Jenkins, immediately say, hey, was it sorority people that were killed? Sororities and frats. Why is it the only thing that he cares about? Very bizarre. Well, because we just lost somebody in our in our fraternity over the weekend too. Well, and that was being labeled a suicide. So, but whatever. I think they would have a big problem on their hands if let's talk about some golf clubs. They got a lot of problems. For the record, no doubt about it. 1000%. I'm a golfer. That golf bag is so fucking light, meaning we're missing a shit ton of clubs. Now, you can have bags that obviously don't have to have all the clubs, all right? But if those were Ethan's clubs, they're hella light because there's no way Ethan's going to be rolling around with like a 7-iron, 9-iron, a driver, a 3-wood, and a putter. Okay, he's going to have his full set. And I remember that I believe it was the Chapins that said, they got 2 of our cars in a very expensive golf set of Ethan's. Okay, now you usually keep golf clubs. A lot of people keep golf clubs in their trunk. Okay, but Ethan had a Jeep. And even though it was a hard top, I had golf clubs slowing out of my Jeep before, but I had a soft top and I had my top off and I was eating lunch. And literally somebody took my golf clubs while I was eating lunch inside a restaurant, came out gone. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me right now. How could just somebody yank this in the middle of the day? And so you have like there's just, we looked at the pictures, the ones that are in the spare bedroom. And so I was like asking people, I'm like, there's a picture of Hunter Johnson and he's golfing with Ethan and Xana. And I cannot find that fucking picture to save my life because I want to see if I could see their bags. So I don't know if the golf clubs that were in the spare room, if that was like the bag. I'm telling you, that's a Hooper Ping. It's a $200 bag. It's a really nice bag. I just want to see what Ethan was playing out of. So his golf clubs could have been either in the Explorer. I think we have pictures though. I'm gonna go back over. I don't think were there clubs in the back, way back of the Explorer. I guess I can pull up the original stuff with the cars. Golf clubs are really expensive. If you have a nice set, I mean, my golf clubs, like this driver right here that I was just fucking around with. This is an Epic Callaway. When I bought this puppy, this is like at least $500 back then. My Ping irons were like $1,200. Like my bag, my putter, my wedges, like easy $2,500, if not pushing $3,000. But again, I'm a very serious golfer. If you could probably like a bag for $500 and go do it. Those bags are over 1,000. No, the bag is not. That Hooper bag that he has in that room was probably like $275. So I mean, your wedges are like your 3-wood, same thing. It's like $300-$400 for just a 3-wood. And if you got like, I don't know if you're playing like depends on what your game's like. I rolled with 3 wedges. My wedges were like $200 a piece, so that's $600 right there. My Scotty Cameron putter is $500. My driver is $500. I mean, those 3 clubs, 3 wedges, my driver, and my putter. Yeah. I have my golf clubs insured. When do you have time to golf? Wait, you'll start seeing my golf tan here really quick. It's gonna start getting nice out. I used to golf all the time. I used to play way too much. I used to play like every day in the mornings. I'm not a weekend golfer. I refuse to play 6-hour rounds. Okay. I only play on the weekends if it's like a tournament or like a fun scramble. You're gonna be out there forever. I can't do that. Fuck. Um, and so yeah. But it's an expensive hobby. And then your golf balls, shit, man. If you suck, you're going through fucking balls left and right. You better not be playing those Pro V1s. Golf balls have just gotten out extraordinarily expensive. But Ethan had that bag that was ever in that room. I just didn't know if it was Xana's and that's what she was playing out of because it was like a makeshift set. Then we got. I noticed that at least one of the clubs was already out of the bag and it was like laying. But I'm exhausted. Balls everywhere. Yeah. So I'm shocked that Ann Taylor was not going the route that these crimes happened earlier. She should be listening to Chris Holland because it's all the evidence is there that we have so much fucking shit going on and you can't even pinpoint. I mean, everybody wants to just say that Ethan and Xana were still alive. It's just like, what, how? Who's saying they're alive? You have everybody saying, you're going to sit here and tell me that the homegirl Dylan saving a number in her phone at 351 is not hearing Xana at 354 saying things like, God, where the fuck is this? What is this girl doing? Where is she at? What is she doing? You're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear somebody talking like and being pissed about the DoorDash. Fuck out of here. No way. No way. Like, and it's like Bethany nor Dylan want to talk at all about Xana, except when Bethany writes something like, well, Xana had on all black. And it's like, what was Xana wearing? Do you know that question was asked? And who I believe is Peter. Peter has no recollection of what Ethan and Xana were wearing at this party. I think I would know what my friends, especially my really, really close friends, were wearing the last time I saw them. That's just a fact. Especially if that's asked of you, like, it just looks like the person that saw people doing things. You know, I just really question the whole this whole thing about them not having their door, like that their door was open. Let's go the whole thing that they're saying that they weren't home yet. Then why isn't Xana returning Maddie's call? Why isn't Xana's up? With what Dylan and Bethany are saying, the digital evidence does not back it up. Sorry. Like and subscribe. Yeah. People are going to watch this replay and be like, where is Lana just coming out and just talking in no entry, no nothing? Like, hey, guys. So I don't know, man. The crime scene to me looks like if I was looking for my dog, I'm going around looking for my dog. And then I don't know. How about Kaylee and Maddie never call each other? I think that's just as important. Kaylee and Maddie never call each other, right? Remember, Maddie goes downstairs without Kaylee. According to who? According to people that fucking A. I think you should throw that out. Bethany's supposed to have those fucking chips in her bedroom. Those chips are in the living room. Bethany said that she got the chips and she went to her room. Those chips were not in her room. And how would they get up on the second floor after? Like, when did you bring them up there? Like, come on, man. How many things we have to point out that says that these people are either they were so fucking annihilated, hammered that they don't know a damn thing, right? They're just getting all of this shit wrong. Or it's just not true. Because the chips weren't down there. The chips were on the main level. So that would mean that you went outside and you're like, it's too cold out here, right? I'm going to go back. I put something in the cupboard, then I grab my chips and I go downstairs to my room. No, that means you would have grabbed your chips, went to the living room. Who was in the living room at that time? Think about it. Maddie's outside by herself. Dylan's supposedly in her room. Ethan and Xana aren't there. And so Bethany gets the chips, goes and sits on the couch and just sits there and eats by herself. Okay. Then what? Again, Bethany and Dylan want to not talk about anything that occurred between 2 and 4. And that's when everything was going down. I got my chips. I went down to my room. No, you didn't. Dylan, everything was fine. Everything was fine. We all went to bed. It was at 2. And then this is what happened at 4. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. What? What do you mean everything was fine? It doesn't even make any sense. You're calling to see if a guy is out driving still at 2:10. Then he texts you back at 2:13. So now already your 2 o'clock is fucked. Like, this shit didn't. Well, then I just went to my room, after 2:13, and I just fell asleep right away. Okay. Do they even put down that on the Visco she's uploading photos at 3:30? That we know that happened. I just can't believe that people think that this happened when they think that. I'm sorry. I heard a big thud. 417, and then the car is just flying out of there. And it's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So let me get this straight. Brian did it, and then they chose to clean up for a stranger. Because there ain't no way Brian had time to clean. Because there's no blood from my glove. Okay, I just did a bunch of yard work this afternoon. Had my gloves on to pull all these fucking weeds out of this bed. My gloves covered in mud. covered in mud. If I would have left from the beds, okay, and came and touched anything, just touched it, there is going to be dirt and soil, okay, that transfers from my gloves onto whatever the fuck I touch. What people aren't getting is that there is no mixture from killing people upstairs, okay? The mixture I'm talking about is I have Maddie and Kaylee's blood on my hands because my gloves would be doused. I'm stabbing. They're going to be doused with blood. Then I immediately, this is something that's not in your little fucking, trial run. I have to take those gloves off. I cannot kill Xana and Ethan with those gloves on. Why? Because the evidence tells us that did not happen because there is none of the blood from Maddie or Kaylee are in Xana's room. Nowhere. That's why I've always been saying, you're going to keep swabbing until you find Maddie and or Kaylee's blood in this fucking room. So we're not going home until we find that. And if we don't find that, then this did not happen by one person in the amount of time that you're talking about. After you kill the people upstairs, for it to be one person, this person had to get a completely new outfit on. And they didn't. How do we know this? Because I would think that this would have to have happened when you're about to leave, unless you're going to just take off the gloves and have new gloves. But that's too risky to that you would have still transferred stuff. But we know that didn't happen. How do we know that didn't happen? Because of the smudge marks of the person that left the top floor. They smudge marked and got Kaylee and Maddie's blood. So they were still in the clothes that they had on to kill them in. Okay. And so unless you think that I'm going to come down smudgy poo and all, and then stop on the main level and then just say, okay, now I'm going to get completely naked, which maybe there's Bethany eating chips. So there being the blood on the stairwell that's Kaylee and Maddie's tells me that the person did not change. And that tells me that person cannot be the person that killed Xana and Ethan. Because when did they change? There's no blood. I mean, so let me get this straight. They go downstairs to go into the bathroom on the first level to change. What it seems like is that the smudgy poos stop right after where Dylan's bedroom would be. What smudges are happening on the wall that's in the main room? Bottom line is that get the fuck out of here, man. It wouldn't matter if somebody had Vaseline and shit all over their body, okay, and then put all this shit on. The gloves, the clothing, your gloves, and then also there's a different knife used because there's no transfer. The knife, I don't care if you think that you're gonna just rinse that shit off. What the fuck are you talking about? Rinse it off. Just run under the water, it'll be fine. And then just rinse it all off and then go use it to go back down there to the second floor and kill. Okay. No. So I just believe every which way you look at it, there is a huge argument to say that um that's why I was saying to you guys, I want you guys to look at it like this. Go with the state's theory. And you can fuck it up all every which way. There is no clear path with what they're saying with their theory unless you include a lot more time. It can be one person if you include different times that people were killed and enough time in between to change. And that doesn't that's not copacetic with the white car at all. With like the 408 when it's finally parked and then speeding out of there at that time. No. Sorry. But I will tell you that yeah, it can be one person. But just throw that fucking car out. But they couldn't. And that's what Cyree was gonna say. I know that's what he's gonna say. I know he's gonna say that you married to that fucking shitty ass timeline instead of realizing like, hey, something's wrong here. Like how could it let's ask ourselves this. How can it be Brian Kohlberger? Okay, but not that timeline. Because it wasn't that timeline. But is there a way that it could still be Brian Kohlberger? What was Brian Kohlberger doing between 1 and 2:52? The answer is just we don't know. We have no idea. And neither does the cops. That's pretty crazy, right? We know that he was shopping, literally shopping at Walmart from like 10 whatever. Kohlberger in-store purchase at Walmart in Pullman. Bounty, napkins, toilet paper, groceries. Then he goes to the Safeway in Pullman. I think that that's wild. I still don't understand how he was able to get out of the one and get into the other one. And going off of receipt and evidence, receipt from apartment. That's what dude, me and Carson, we're on the same page here. Who the fuck goes from like, I am shopping at Walmart, okay, at this hour. And then I will say this. You guys, I think it is completely strange that he kept on his driving gloves, whatever gloves they were, when he went to but once we find out like that he's autistic or whatever spectrum, then you have to throw that out the window. Okay? Because fuck. He's a germaphobe. He's a goddamn germaphobe. So then it's just like, okay, fuck. We need to we need to go back through his phones or his old phones And, like, was he always like this? Was he always, I mean, I don't know. And then he takes that selfie. And everyone's like, oh my God, he took that selfie. And I'm thinking to myself, well, was it normal for him to take selfies? And here we find out that it was totally normal for him to take selfies like that. And we even have the cops, Darren Gilbertson, saying that. He's like, but he always took selfies. So it's like, we can't even say that, like, that's not. And I'm over here like, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with his hands. You know what Scott Roeder told me? Scott Roeder told me right off the rip. He said, whoever did this in the amount of stab wounds, you're talking about somebody that is going to have literally, like, their hands are going to be so bruised. So bruised. He's like, yeah. I also, when I asked him, I said, what would be the reason that the killer, if they would have ever seen Dylan and Dylan saw them, right? And it's right there in the kitchen, why would he have ever left? Like, what are you doing? And he said, because if he's already changed and he doesn't have, he talked about the clothing. He said that that'd be part of a plan, that he knows that he doesn't have other clothing. Because if he changed, like, so that's what I've been saying. I'm like talking about this clothing. But now with Scott Roeder, because I haven't talked to him in a while about it. If I was to tell him about this with this, that there's no transferring of the blood from the room to the room, I mean, Scott Roeder going nuts. He'd be saying, like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean there's no, yeah, there's no transfer. There is not a mixture of anybody from upstairs with anybody from downstairs in any of the swabs, nothing. And I guarantee you he would say, well, I would be having them swab until they found one. Because otherwise, what? It's a big problem, like a huge problem. And for people that don't get that, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. But I think that that's like, I think that you could explain that to the jury to say, hey guys, you remember when you were younger and you took the red paint and you got water in there, and then you take your, whatever other color, you got the water in there because you're going to mix the two to make a color. Okay. And if you were to take a picture of your watercolors and you were to look at when you're mixing these, you can even just see that the color is mixed with the other color, because you have to like dab it. Unless you do what? Clean the shit out of that brush and then go and get the water and then put it into your, the new color that you want to. That is how I would break it down to a fucking jury. I'm not even playing. I would get out fucking watercolors and I would say, please mix 4 colors together. Lay them all out and do your best. Do your absolute best to not get any of the other colors inside the other colors, so that we would be able to, just to get them in the mindset of, wow, yeah. Now, see how methodical you were? See how slow that took? Yeah. Well, there is no blood from these 2 victims in the room of the last 2 that the state's claiming. See how many times you had to dunk the paintbrush in the water and then take the cloth and wipe it. And he still can't ever get that shit to be all the way out. Like, it's going to show it. But you have to do stuff like that, because I think that would get you in your mind as like a juror to say, okay, yeah, there's nobody running down from bedroom 3 upstairs, running down and then literally committing a murder or 2 right after committing the 2 upstairs. That's just not happening. The evidence says no. You can't just go making stuff up. And so since the evidence tells us no, the crime scene then tells us that what the girls are saying that are in the house, The only one that's still able to have some weight here is the person on the bottom floor. Because we have Ethan's blood. Undiluted. Walking in a path that's going to go downstairs. Right? And so Bethany over here, the person that alerted Dylan to it, Dylan wasn't going to say a word to Bethany. If Dylan heard something at 4:00 in the morning and all this shit was going on, she doesn't seem to call Bethany nothing. It's Bethany who calls Dylan to say, did you just hear that firecracker? Did you just hear that? What is that? And she's like, yeah. According to Bethany, Dylan says, yes, she heard it. When Dylan's interviewed, she says, no, I didn't hear it. Y'all know that, right? That's fucking wild to me. It's a story. This is all stories. This is story time. Sorry. And yeah, so do I believe that the whole texting and stuff happened like that? Absolutely. Dylan saying that she saw a masked man? Huh? You know, Dylan, I don't know. Do I think that she could have seen him earlier? Sure. But do I think that you saw him at 4 when the car's already speeding away? You guys do also know that too. When she says that she saw this is after the car's already gone. She's saying that she's yelling out while she's texting their names and walking over and doing all this stuff. And she just doesn't get killed. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry, but as a juror, I'm not believing that. I'm sorry. With what you're going to show me in all this evidence, no. And then you start talking about, because that's going to be the big part, is what's going to be relevant here. Is some stuff of what Dylan has going on here going to be, you know, when I start finding out the diaries, the vampire diaries, and they say like literally the exact line of the story from that show is I'm here to help you and all that bullshit. And then I correlate that to, well, she would have heard that while she was dozing off to sleep at like 2:52 when she's hearing the screaming. Yeah. When she thought that what she heard was Kaylee. Well, Kaylee's last movements are at 2:52. There's someone here. Come down, run down, go back. You know, I heard her go to sleep, and she was like saying like, so when Kaylee's like, I'm going to bed. I heard him dancing and stuff like that because you got Murphy. 2:52. So you're going upstairs, and then when she got upstairs, it was like, oh my god, there's someone here. Who was the grand juror? What's the grand juror? What are you talking about? The grand juror is a bunch of people. Hit that like for Lana. Yeah. Anyways, it's just, I don't think any juror get back. Well, then when you hear about the whole fact there could been a cleanup. Well, Brian Colbert didn't clean it up. So that's what I'm trying to say. So they cleaned up for a stranger. They cleaned up all the blood trail for a stranger. Again, if I was these girls, I'd be like, yeah, because I thought it was so and so. I didn't want them to get in trouble. So I cleaned stuff up, and I don't know why, because they were fighting and I didn't know what happened. And that would make a lot more sense to me. But then why still didn't she call 911? I don't know. Like, then I'd be like, well, actually, none of this fucking makes sense. I mean, Ann Taylor, what the fuck are you doing? How can you, unless your client confessed to you that he did it and he did it alone, unless he confessed to you, which Brent Turvey says, I got it out of Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor said, that didn't happen, right? So how the fuck do you not take this case to trial? If that man has been maintaining his innocence, what possibly did you say to him to make him think that he had to take a plea deal? Because according to Ann Taylor, it was all Brian Koberger's idea to do this. And I'm like, what? According to Ann Taylor, the mitigating team won. And this is why, if that's true, this is why this should never happen. Can you imagine preparing for a trial for the penalty phase, like the guilt phase? And while you're doing that, then you have to say, oh, well, here you also have to prepare for the penalty phase because it's the death penalty. And why wouldn't we get to do all that afterwards and me to even be involved in that as a human, right? I'm not going to be involved in those talks. I cannot possibly. How do you wrap your head around with, well, if you're found guilty, then let's talk about how do we mitigate this? Are you fucking kidding me? I would have just said, and I don't want to mitigate anything because I can't even talk about any of this. You want me to provide you with evidence of why I could have done this or why they should go more lenient on me because of this? Because if I was convicted, I'd get the fuck out of here. I don't think that should ever, and in Florida, I don't believe that you do it like that. But I mean, because that trial that happened afterwards of the Parkland shooter, like, that to me is like an oxymoron. Like, we can talk about that afterwards because how could so what are you talking about? The mitigating team went to tour the facility? What? I just don't think Ann Taylor wanted to prosecute. I don't think that Ann Taylor wanted to be in that courtroom for this. Because do you know how difficult it would be to, like, I mean, nobody wants to do it, but you're going to have to call Dylan and Bethany to the stand. Like, and how are you going to be with them? You're going to really have to put feelers out on how the jury, you know. Then I thought about it. I just don't see, there's just no way that the state could not. You have to call Dylan to the stand. Dylan is your timeline. Dylan is your timeline. Dylan is the only reason that you got a search warrant, motherfuckers. Because that car means nothing without Dylan's statements to say that her text messages and all that shit was contemporaneous, and that's when I saw the masked man, and fuck it out of here, man. But then she's telling you that I don't know if what I saw was real. And then Ashley Jennings is like, well, clearly what you saw was real because look at the fucking shit. Like, it's real. It happened. 4 people are fucking slain, you know? That's the Ashley Jennings head. And it's like, no, Ashley, what time did it happen? And you might want to look at your fucking witness right here and ask her what's going on in her head because shit ain't right up there. Sorry. It's just, sorry. Thank you. 5 memberships going out. I'm seeing it now, so I gotta scroll up. Oh, wait, there it is. Kylie. Is it Kylie? Kylie, thank you so much. Oh my God, I figured out how to do it. Auto stars. Yes, I got it back, you guys. I figured it out. I'll be able to highlight for days now. Fuck, I don't need your help, StreamYard. I just figured it out. I figured something out. Anyways, if you don't have the book, go get the book. Paulette Sutton, somebody asked about. I mean, there's a cleanup here. Paulette Sutton want to talk about Xana's mouth being the cause of diluted. I'm sorry, no way. That doesn't matter to me. That's why people want to talk about the diluted blood. I want to talk just, there is no fucking blood from Maddie or Kaylee in that fucking other bedroom, people. That means the person that killed Maddie and Kaylee upstairs had to completely fucking change. Completely change. Completely fucking change. We're talking gloves. We're talking murder weapon. We are talking all of it. And then after, they had to have changed. But when? Because there's the smudge marks, like I said, coming down the steps. So then they decided to drop trowel, like what? Right in Dylan's room? Right there in the middle of the little, I mean, wild. And no sweat came off of Brian. No sweat. No, like, because when you do then change your clothes, like fibers coming off, like where is like would they just use the table in the middle of the room there, that that table, putting your nasty bloody shit on. Just, you guys, I'll say it. I said it yesterday. There is so much more evidence against Karen Reed than there was Brian Kohlberger. And the only reason that Karen Reed is where she's at free is because they successfully got the fucking jury to see that and believe that the police and or the witnesses planted evidence. Because her taillights can, right? Think about it. Like, there was way more evidence, right, against Karen Reed than there was Brian Kohlberger. The only evidence there is against Brian Kohlberger is the sheath that looks like it's hella planted. So that's all I have to say about that. Why change unless they're trying to set up more than two perps? Makes no sense. Why change? I think that this looks like a did you ever listen to Dylan's interview? Dylan like listens to murder mystery podcasts. This just seems like it's like, do you think this is an organized killing or a disorganized killing? Because you can't have it both ways unless you're dealing with a really, really interesting human being. What if this is a do you guys do you believe in split personality? Do you think it's at all able to be believed that somebody committed these crimes, doesn't remember committing these crimes, and do you believe that could at all? I mean, we're talking about you guys. Yeah, that's what it's called. I mean, DID, but yeah. I'm just saying what would make it real in this case would be that we're talking about how much time. You guys, those girls woke up the next morning and got on their phones and just totally acted like, especially Dylan. And just Dylan's it's like, how the fuck, why is Dylan getting up at 8? Why is Bethany getting up at that early? Like they'd be exhausted, just want to go to sleep. Like if you're not going to bed until like, I don't know, fucking 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. Who the hell is getting up at I just know that one person did not commit these crimes between 4 08 and 4:17. Sorry. I would definitely agree with that. You also, how about Dylan? We're talking about people deleted stuff, you guys. There's also people deleted stuff. People deleted stuff. So it's like, if I don't believe me, myself, if I don't believe that this happened between just 4:08 and 4:20, fuck, I'll even give them that, 4:08 and 4:20. That's 12 minutes. There's no fucking way this happened in 12 minutes. Everything that we're seeing there, and that there's no blood from the people upstairs, downstairs. Who the fuck are you to say that? Are you insane? And this is why these cops, though, but this is the cops wanted to see this could be done in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And I'm like, what? 3 minutes and 30 seconds? Why? Why all of a sudden 3 minutes and 30 seconds now? We need to make, and then I'm like, okay, November, that's what I wanted to ask when we were talking about what did they know on November 21st based off of like the blood? Because as soon as you would find that out, you'd be like, wait a second, guys, this person took their shit off. Like, this person, and then that's when Turvey's like, yeah, and according to Sutton, this guy's just naked running around killing people. And I'm like, the only thing I believe with Sutton is saying is that, yeah, it's possible if you got naked. Well, naked after what? The first kill? That is absolutely wild to me. But Sutton, like, yeah, that's how you're saying that this would be possible. Because you're at least agreeing with me and saying that this person did not have the same clothes on for kill 1, which is upstairs for the 2 that he had down in that room. And she'd be like saying, yes. Okay. And so that's why you believe that he just said, okay, I'm going to get now naked and I'm just going to put Vaseline all over myself. And now you're going to try to use a knife and get into a knife fight with 2 different people who would have presumably woken up from what they just fucking heard. And that you don't cut yourself. Okay. Yeah. Sign me up for that one too. Get out of here. No way. Like, who would go back to a jury room and say, like, you guys, this was coming back, in my opinion, either a hung jury or not guilty if this went to trial. Because of the evidence, because of the investigation, because it's that bad. Same thing when I feel like in Karen Reed's case. Hung jury or not guilty because were you guys trying to fuck this up? Lana, do you think what happened at 12:43 a.m. Linda Lane security camera? What do you think happened at 12:43 a.m.? That was the time that Dylan was getting home. So whatever's on Linda Lane's security camera at 12:43 a.m., attribute that to Dylan Mortensen. because that's what time she was getting home from her with her and Lakeland or in the Uber driver guy. No, he wasn't. He was the sober bro driver guy. So you guys know that, right? Yeah, that's what time Dylan's sober driver got them home. So so I think that that time frame. I'm just off of what you just said right there when you said, Lana, what does 12:43 ring my bell? 12:43 rings my bell because that's what time Dylan is alleging that she's taking the sober driver. That sober driver could have also gotten Dylan home at 11:43 though. So I'm still trying to like track Dylan, but 12:43 right off the rip, Dylan. So what's going on? Lakeland, yes, that's her name. Lakeland McComas. They go to Dylan's house because Lakeland McComas was supposedly so intoxicated, but yet Lakeland knows a ton more. People were seen on a camera going into an apartment at Linda Lane, and Xana's name is brought up. Potentially could be Xana. I believe it though that at 1 o'clock in the morning, Xana took that picture. Are you talking about going to that apartment at Linda Lane? Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, no. I believe 1,000%, 1,000%, you're never going to get me off of this. That those guys in those plain clothes, Rosendahl and Jacob Tisdall, Rosie, and his name, and then Jacob Tisdall, I believe is how you say it. They were part of a task force. Why do you think they're not releasing any of the Fed shit? Ask ourselves that. I don't think they're going to get away with it though. It's a good question. According to Ann Taylor, that that deal was brought to them. So and then according to Bill Thompson, he's like, no, they came to us. So who truly, I mean, so Bill Thompson was just like, or Ann Taylor's like, what do you got for us? So if there was, let me make this clear. And Brian Colbert just called you up because I don't think he can, but I mean he can, but he just called you up and he's like, Ann, I've been thinking. Try to get me a plea deal. What? Brian, what are you talking about? We're about to go to trial. Instead, Anna was like, okay, no problem, Brian. Let me call Bill Thompson. Hey, Bill, Brian Colbert just told me that he wanted me to ask you. I mean, she's not going to say it like that, but hey, Bill, so what's up? What do you got for me? Do you have any deals before we go? What? Yeah. Is she going to say my client's looking for a deal? What? Oh, hang up. Let me go ask Josh, Hurwitz, how I should handle this. Yeah, tell him he can have fucking life in prison. He pleads guilty to everything, but he doesn't have to. We don't have to know anything. And he ends like, all right, hold on, let me talk to him. Is able to get Brian Colbert to say yes, it's a go without sleeping on it? Without like taking like, I don't know, like a week or like a couple days? Like you're gonna make the biggest decision of your life in just a couple minutes? Fuck out of here. Nobody believes this shit. Okay. Nobody believes this. We need a Truth and Transparency Murder Board to follow this case. Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. The stuff I put out earlier before we got canceled for a little bit there, it was good shit. I think all these people should be fired. Didn't anybody think it was weird that they even released that Banfield cam footage when they were being so tight with everything else except that footage? No, they were. I mean, we got they had to release that. They originally released it without a lot of redactions. If you got the good one, there was like no redactions. And then all of a sudden they went fucking ham with the redactions. Lana, will part 1 be back after you rip some? It will. Yes. Do me a favor, thumbs up the video. But yeah, as soon as I put in my my appeal, who else had withdrawals when Lana was off YouTube? Yeah, that's not happening again. It's fucking bad. If I was, I wouldn't be able to be live right now. Nothing but some liars. The JLRs wasn't redacted. Yeah. You got canceled. No, I didn't. Somebody asked do I think Dylan watches these? I think she has. I do. I think that Dylan's a busybody. So yes. Yes, good question. Do you know what's going on with the leak investigation? I'm so glad that you just mentioned that. So Brian Etten interviewed Idaho Statesman. The Idaho Statesman, as far as I know from my sources, are saying that he's writing a book. Okay. And nothing about this. The Idaho Statesman, he's the one that got Brian, he's the one that got Bill Thompson to interview with him. Guess who's like literally licking his ass? Brian Etten is literally eating Kevin Flickler's ass for morning, lunch, noon, dinner, all the meals. Okay. I think it's interesting. But they're over here talking about how difficult it's going to be to investigate the leak. Because Brian Etten says, well, yeah, it's not like Dateline's going to, no source. Nobody is going to give up their source. And I'm over here thinking like, well, if we just take all of the agencies and we start Google searching terms, or not Google searching them, but putting these terms in, I mean, how did you guys get them this information? Okay. We start looking up NBC address, like at emails. Who's been talking to NBC? You know? But they're over here saying that they're never going to be able to get to the bottom of who the leak was. It's just, and I'm over here saying, yeah, that's why it doesn't matter who the leak was. It matters, did it happen? Was there a leak? And the answer is yes. Was Brian Kober, were his rights violated because of it? Yes. End of story. It doesn't matter who did it because the state, as far as I'm concerned, is responsible for it from either side. Why? Because they're paying for it. Because he had a public defender. Okay. The money's coming from the same spot. But Brian Kober didn't leak that shit. Okay. And what was the result of it? I mean, Brian Kober just said what he said up there. Well, if I was granted my continuation that you didn't give me, Hippler, and if the Dateline leak didn't happen, I'd be going to trial. but instead I took the plea deal. So I mean, are you going to grant me my plea deal still? Because then what would Hitler have said? Oh, well, Mr. Colbert, no, 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 hold on. So then you're basically saying that you aren't guilty. Who knows? But the leak, they're hilarious with that. Ghost Horse 02, member for 36 months. Happy Mother's Day, Lana. Thank you so much. But listening to those two talk about it, I was just like, they're like, Dateline's never going to give up their source. I'm like, huh. I'm like, why don't you just call everybody in and ask them a question? You know what I mean? Like, have you ever talked to Shane Bishop from Dateline? Have you ever talked to anybody from Dateline? Everybody that says no, put them in a pile. Everybody that says yes, put them in a fucking pile. Do round one that way. Okay, now all these yeses. Okay. Well, to do with this case, how do you know him when you have you ever been a source ever? Have you ever been on, anyways, what did he said something and I was like, oh my god. Oh, he said it was important. He said that he said Brent Turvey. So check this out. Brent Turvey, Ann Taylor's like, yeah, you can talk to them. Finally said, like, yeah, you can talk to them. Well, I don't think that Ann Taylor has like that say, but whatever. Maybe it's because of these NDAs. He's like, I don't know, because I'm in an NDA. Well, criminal shit always trumps NDAs, so whatever. But Brent Turvey decided that he wasn't going to talk to the cops. After Ann Taylor said, yeah, it's fine, go ahead, talk to them. Now I'm going to tell you what I would do. I would never talk to them. Go fucking figure it out yourselves, motherfucker. Cy Ray, I guess he did it a couple times. You know? I would have been like, what? You know what I mean? Like, figure it out yourselves. You guys are just great fucking detectives. Have a good day. But so here, Turvey did what I would have done, which is told them to all fucking piss off. And how I would have told them that is I would have never called them back. You guys, just because the cops call you and ask you to talk to you, the answer to that is no. What is this pertaining to? Yeah, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Or like, don't even have to say that. What does this pertain to? Yeah, no, sorry. I have nothing to say. Have a good day. Hey, your neighbor's car was broken into. Yeah, I have nothing to say. We noticed that you had some Ring camera footage. Oh, Ring camera footage you want? I'm not saying a word. Because my neighbor's shit just got broken into. Oh, what you gonna do? Fucking say it's me? These cops, they're not your friends. They're just not. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about the goddamn reason they're calling you. I'm telling you that right now. Very few and far between. They're just doing a job. They get paid. They have to do their job. But I'm just anyways, moral of the story is that Brent Turvey did not talk to them. I hope that gets brought up. To ask him in his interview, like, why did you decide not to talk to them? If you can say that. And how did you handle that you weren't going to talk to them? Did you just never call them back? Did you get a lawyer involved? Like, what's up? Again, Brent Turvey believes that he did not violate his NDA, by the way. So if you guys want to, I'll play a little clip of it. I'm not going to play a lot. I just can't stand fucking Brian Enton. Either he's just doesn't. I ask myself every day, do I think that or does he grasp it?
Who is the leaker in the Bryan Kohberger investigation? And I know this hasn't come up in a long time. I thought this topic was sort of forgotten about. But to refresh your memory, remember before the Bryan Kohberger plea deal, and Bryan Kohberger, of course, admitted to killing the 4 University of Idaho college students, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, Xander Kernodle, and Madison Mogen. But before he took the plea deal and admitted guilt, there was that Dateline, that NBC Dateline episode with all of that leaked information and video in the episode, including the surveillance video. You remember they were the first ones to get that. Bryan Kohberger's car outside of the house at 1122 King Road, the selfies of Bryan Kohberger on his phone, among other things. It was really a bombshell moment.
It was really a bombshell moment. What? The leak is a bombshell moment? Like, why are people praising? I just don't get this. You guys, it's against the fucking rules. So if you want to change the rules, change the rules. Otherwise, stop breaking the rules, because this shit can't happen.
Because it had been such a closed, tight-lipped investigation with the gag order, and then boom, there was all of this leaked information. And
it wasn't some closed, tight-lipped anything. You were just getting fucking information fed to you left and right, Brian Etten.
Judge was not happy about it. Special prosecutor was talked about. There was talk of a major investigation that was going to happen to figure out who leaked the information. There were questions about whether it compromised the case. Bryan Kohberger's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, was making claims that he could never get a fair trial now that this stuff was leaked. I mean,
yeah. Ann Taylor wasn't saying that. She was saying that
it seemed like he was going to have a major.
Listen, there's sanctions. This right here should have gotten the death penalty off the table. How do we know that maybe somebody didn't leak it because they thought that that was going to happen, that they would definitely go to trial then?
Your impact, and then boom, not long later, the plea deal happened. There was no trial. Bryan Kohberger admitted guilt and agreed to go to prison for life. And it seemed like the whole leaker thing was sort of a sideshow and had gone away. Well, now, confirmation from Kevin Fixer at the Idaho Statesman, my buddy, a really good reporter.
My buddy, a really good reporter. Ask Kevin Fixer why he did not show the body-worn camera, okay, of the noise complaints, and why he was going to bury that. How about that?
Through his sources, that there is an investigation still ongoing, a very, very active investigation, it seems, into who this leaker is. Whether it's someone on the defense side, whether it's someone on the prosecution side, whether it's someone in law enforcement, they are still trying to find the leaker, and it is a criminal investigation. So I want to get into the latest on how all of that is going. What could the motivation have been for leaking, and did it really have an impact on the entire case? Did it have an impact on the plea deal?
That's not even a question. It did. It had an impact on somebody's rights to a fair trial. You fucking idiot. That's what the fuck it had a problem with. This would affect anybody's right to have a fair trial, which is your right. Okay? That was stupid. Bryan Kohberger's phone contents were on Dateline. Dateline. Why the fuck would you ever even air that shit? Even if you got the shit. Because they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. I'm still waiting for that Jennifer Drake episode. Come on, man. I double dog dare you guys to fucking come out with that shit.
Joined now by Kevin Fixler, investigative reporter with the Idaho Statesman. Kevin, thank you as always for joining me and for breaking the story.
Nice to see you, Brian.
Yeah, nice to see you too. With your sources, you were able to confirm, and I was wondering whether or not this leak investigation was ongoing, because it felt like such a big deal for a while when it happened, and Judge Hippler was talking about it, and everybody was talking about it, and then obviously the plea deal happened, and it just felt like it kind of disappeared. But you've confirmed that it's still a thing.
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's been almost a year now since we had heard Judge Hippler invite the appointment of a special prosecutor to the defense in a.
Well, guys, it was no big secret that it was still ongoing, because that's why no documents are being released to us right now. We understand that. That's why nothing's continuing to be unsealed right now. It was halted. It was halted. Lana is jealous. Who the fuck is this loser? Yeah, so jealous. Jealous of what? Jealous of what? I love what I do every single day. Fucking rocking it, man. I love life.
Hearing, and there was in the case summary for the Koberger case in Idaho, it listed that there were filings that were under seal, and I was told for a long time that we would never hear anything about this unless somebody was charged. So the Ada County Sheriff's Office, that's the local sheriff's office here in Boise, where the Statesman is based and where I live, is investigating. And I confirmed that through 2 former defense experts for the Koberger defense team, and also an attorney who represents 2 of the victims' families, the Laramies. Those are the parents of Madison Mogan. And then you also have the Chapins. His name is Leander James. He's an attorney here in Idaho. So it is an ongoing investigation. I tried to learn more from the Ada County Sheriff's Office, but
Well, that's something new. He's saying that he talked to the lawyers of the Laramies and the Chapins.
families, Statesman is based and where I live, is investigating. And I confirmed that through 2 former defense experts for the Koberger defense team, and also
Chris Holland, I bet, and Brent Turby.
an attorney who represents 2 of the victims' families, the Laramies. Those are the parents of Madison Mogan. And then you also have the Chapins. His name is Leander James. He's an attorney here in Idaho.
And so he's not saying that he talked to Steve Gonsalves about this. He's saying that he talked to the Mogans and the Chapins.
It is an ongoing investigation. I tried to learn more from the Ada County Sheriff's Office, but as you know, and as many of your viewers know, when there's an ongoing investigation, that's not typically something that law enforcement speaks to, and I didn't hear back from them. The court, where Judge Hippler is the administrative judge, they also declined to comment about whether or not the investigation was ongoing.
Would Judge Hippler still have anything to do with it? I mean, if it's been handed over to the sheriff's office, is he still a part of it?
Good question. So the appointment of a special prosecutor, and my understanding at the time was a magistrate judge inquiry. What that allows is for subpoena power. Now, whether or not the investigation went down a path through that special prosecutor.
Yeah, so I cannot wait for this to be over because I want to see what was subpoenaed. Are they going to seal that too? So like the subpoena powering, like what was subpoenaed? Because, for example, like Gretchen Voss and that shit in Boston, like they have no, like they had to turn over everything. I mean, was NBC subpoenaed?
Prosecutor, and then if they came to some conclusions and then referred it to the Ada County Sheriff's Office because the case had moved to Ada County, I would say that's very possible. I don't believe the Ada County Sheriff's Office would have been initially involved, as whomever the appointed prosecutor would have started to dig in. I'm making a little bit of an assumption there just based on jurisdiction. I'm also told that typically the state police or the state attorney general.
Oh God, that's never getting solved if it's the state police. Fuck, they suck.
Office would have been investigating. They're not really, and could not have in this case based on potential conflicts because.
There you go. So they're not going to be investigating it. So who was leading this investigation? Because Idaho State Police would be under investigation. Moscow's under investigation. Idaho State Police is under investigation. The FBI people that would be working the case is under investigation. Who's running this?
The
sheriff, the prosecutor's office, Ann Taylor's office. I mean, fuck.
AG's office had 2 attorneys on the Koberger case, so it'd be difficult to sort of wall off and investigate yourselves, I suppose, in theory anyway. And then the other piece is that Idaho State Police was deeply involved in this investigation, so I believe that's why they centered around an agency that was not involved in the original criminal investigation, which related to what these.
They gave it to Ada County Sheriff's Office. Is like that's who's going to be investigating this but they only housed Brian Koberger. I mean.
It seems like it would be really hard to investigate because you've got the defense side, you've got all the defense experts, you've got everybody involved on the defense side, you've got the prosecution side, all of their experts, plus you've got everybody in law enforcement. I mean, there's a lot, I would say hundreds of people maybe that had access to some of this information. Is that safe to say?
Going back to the Dateline episode, you'd have to look at what those things were. And as a reminder to people, these were things that had not been released publicly at that point. We've seen a lot of these things since through unsealed court records and releases through document dumps from the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police. Public records requests have released some of these things. So you had things like the neighbors security cam footage from 1112 King Road. That was a big piece that came out at that time and really surprised. We had previously seen screen grabs from that, and that's why you knew the authenticity appeared to be real. You had images from Koberger's cell phone, and hard to fake those. I mean, I guess we live in the AI world now, so anything's possible, but it appeared to be authentic. It was the photos of him in a hoodie and selfie type stuff. We also saw some blurred images of some co-eds from Washington State University where he attended school, and we were also told some from the University of Idaho. None of those were the victims themselves, although police later said that some of them had some social media connections to some of the victims. There were pieces like that. So who possessed that is really the question. Was it hundreds of people? Was it dozens, tens? Probably. And the gag order.
And so what you would ask is you'd have to ask both Bill Thompson and Ann Taylor. But let me ask you something. If you were to ask Bill Thompson or Ann Taylor, who did you provide the material to? But if Ann Taylor's like, I'm not telling you that. I mean, investigate away, but I'm not speaking. I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, you guys, just because there's an investigation, nobody has to talk. So if nobody talks, and that's where I subpoenaing power. So like, well, we're gonna get subpoenas for all of what the emails that were sent out. You're not gonna get my emails with like me and my team talking about fucking client attorney privilege information. I mean, this has to be a mess.
Which this is an investigation into whether or not somebody violated that, and it's suspected that the leaks to Dateline did so. It's really a question of who possessed those specific items. It could have been law enforcement, whether that was the FBI, the Idaho State Police, or perhaps members of the Moscow Police Department. And then, as you said, there's experts on both sides, the prosecution and also the defense experts, and they would have.
I was told that people such as like Howard Bloom and them, they also got that shit. There was a lot of people that got what Dateline got. I want to know if that's true. You know how many people were interviewed for that Dateline episode? Jill Bolton was interviewed, Dan Moore's ex-attorney. She was the defense, person that was like, yeah, I think they went this way and didn't go get no search warrants because they had no probable cause. And without probable cause, you weren't going to get a search warrant if you go through the IGG route. That's why that they did what they did. So Jill Bolton that's who she was talking about that you're supposed to get search warrants at different stages when you're using IGG. They never went and did that. And she said that it's because there was no probable cause and they knew that they wouldn't get them. Think about that. And yet, I don't know how Ann Taylor did not or argue that possibly like correct. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what the fuck she's doing.
Been privy to some of this information, and I think it boils down to investigators needing to learn more information about what was released to whom, and then probably narrowing their list. And the reason I figured this whole thing out was because, again, 2 defense experts told me that they had been contacted by this investigator specifically seeking those interviews, in addition to an attorney for 2 of the families being contacted, basically saying like, hey, heads up, we continue to investigate. Here's where we stand.
Is it a criminal investigation?
No, Brian. It's a fucking investigation that's not criminal. What the fuck is wrong with this man? Is it a criminal investigation? There was an order from the courts, okay? An order that you could not fucking do X, Y, and Z. And if you did, you'd be held in contempt of court. I just can't with this man. I'm just investigating for the fuck of it, Brian.
Yes.
So I think I read in your story, is it a misdemeanor? Would it be a misdemeanor charge?
I actually had this conversation with my editor, and he said, are we certain it's a misdemeanor? And typically a contempt of court charge, if charges were filed, my understanding is it's more likely to be a misdemeanor. And this was something that Cy Ray, who was a defense expert who I spoke to for this story, he's a former police officer, and he referenced the fact that it would be a misdemeanor. There is a such thing as a felony contempt of court charge. So I suppose that's possible depending on how significant they deem this. And obviously there's thresholds in different states, and
I believe that Cy Ray talked to them because he's former law enforcement.
According to statutes in Idaho. So it sounds to me like there's a potential this could be considered a felony, but I
think that should be a felony. I mean, don't you think that this should be a felony? If you have the ability to make it a felony, what the fuck?
Leaning on Cy Ray's perspective, and he actually spoke with this investigator at the Ada County Sheriff's Office, he had indicated that it was a misdemeanor level.
It seems like it would be.
Why wouldn't you right there ask, oh, so did Cy Ray tell you like what they were asking him? I mean, fuck.
hard to figure out because, just thinking as a reporter, Dateline is never going to give up their source. No reporter would ever tell them who gave them the information. And so, I mean, I can't imagine the sheriff's office is going to have access to.
Why wouldn't you ask the question like, do you know what happened in Boston? Do you understand what happened in Massachusetts? In the Karen Reed case?
Hacking into computers of all the experts. And I mean, you know what I mean? Unless someone just admits it, it seems like it's going to be hard.
Yeah, and that was Sai's perspective too. Like, good luck, basically. Although,
yeah, good luck. Exactly. Good fucking luck, especially if people aren't talking about it. Okay. But guess what, guys? There's ways to figure out who this leak was because Dateline had it. You want to figure out when Dateline had it. Dateline didn't just get it right before the episode, okay? You want to see when Dateline started, like, hey, when were you interviewed by Dateline? How about that? Go ask the people that were actually in the Dateline episode. Like Joe Bolton, when were you interviewed? Who contacted you? What material were you shown? I always just ask questions. Okay, well, when were you asked these questions to be on the show? Oh, that was like in, March or like, think about that. I don't know. When did you interview these people? Dateline's pulled all that shit.
the other expert from the defense who told me he had been contacted was Brent Turvey, a forensic scientist who worked with the defense. And he told me he had declined, despite the fact that Ann Taylor, Koberger's lead attorney, actually told him, hey, it's okay to participate. And he told me that he had no interest in that because he felt it would violate a confidentiality agreement that he maintains with the defense. Ironically, Ann Taylor has suggested that he actually has already violated that by speaking publicly about the case and allegedly providing certain documents and information to the press. He also participated in a book that recently came out, Broken Plea. I know you've covered that on your channel. But he said he has not participated. And basically, unless he's served with a subpoena, which would incorporate a specific prosecutor asking a judge for that he has no interest in, they can basically go kick rocks.
Go get a fucking warrant, motherfucker. Go get a subpoena. I'm not giving you shit, okay?
Yeah, and I want to get back to Turvey in a second because it's interesting that he's saying he asked Ann Taylor for permission, yet cooperated in this book and, has been talking to reporters and gotten himself involved that way.
He didn't ask Ann Taylor for permission. I think he wanted to tell her, hey, I got people calling me. And cops wanting to talk to me. Like, what is this about? What's going on? Oh yeah, no, it's fine. You can go ahead. And then waits like a month or two to get back to him and says, oh wait, yeah, they're doing that. You can go talk to them. That's fine. Permission. Like, he's talking about those questions that they would be asking him. What are they going to ask him? I have no interest in talking to you.
I'm curious, I just thinking back to that time when you and I were both we're still covering the Koberger case, but we were really in it then. And I remember when the Dateline episode came out and, they all put out like a press release before sometimes, and they said that they had some new information. And I remember thinking like, what new could they have? I mean, everything was sealed so tight. It was so hard to get anything leaked or exclusive, you remember how it was. I mean, there wasn't a lot leaking out. And then I remember watching the episode and sort of being like, oh my God, like they do have new stuff. They did get new stuff. This is crazy. And they
got Kohlberger's entire phone. They have way more than that. They had the 1112 film footage. They put out the entire state's narrative. Y'all understand that? They basically took the fucking state's narrative and literally put it all out in chronological order, just like fucking Bill Thompson shit. Unbelievable. That's why I think, like, you think this is the defense, and then you think that Bill Thompson wasn't asking to have no fucking continuation and to have some investigation. Ann Taylor was. And so let me get this straight. You think that Ann Taylor leaked the shit only to then have her ass get investigated? I mean, I just can't with the stupidity.
thinking back, I'm wondering like the motivation of whoever leaked it, and I wonder if that's something that the detective from the sheriff's office is thinking about. Because it, like, you think about, well, would it benefit the defense or would it benefit the prosecution, or is this just someone involved who developed a relationship with a producer from NBC and just kind of liked the thrill of, you know, helping out a member of the media? It's kind of interesting to think about like why it happened.
Yeah, and you know, us as two journalists, we know people are motivated by lots of different things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very possible that Dateline had a source or sources. We should note this could be multiple people who leaked this information. And by the way, it's not even clear that it was a violation of the gag order. That's part of the investigation, because what if this is somebody who was not tied to the case and just had access to this? You know, it applied to law enforcement on the prosecution side, it applied to the prosecution team and all their experts, and then vice versa, it applied to the defense and all their defense experts. But if somebody not affiliated with either of those and who was not subject to the gag order was who gave this stuff to Dateline, then it would not have been a violation. So,
Are you insane? That is the biggest lie I've ever fucking heard in my life. If somebody gave this to somebody, it doesn't matter if it would be Dateline. If I work for the prosecutor and I gave it to Bob and then Bob gave it to Dateline, I'm still the leak. I'm getting in trouble for giving it to Bob. That's like, what the fuck is he smoking? I just can't. That is just not true. That is not true at all. That is absolutely horrible to say that. You guys, if I work for Bill Thompson and I gave it to Bob, that's the leak. Me to Bob. Bob saying, "Hey, Dayline, you want to give me about 50 G's? Here you go." Get the fuck out of here. I mean, I cannot believe this shit. I cannot believe that people would believe that. You guys know that that's not true, right? Whoever I gave it to, I'm the leak. Just because Bob, and wait till he goes on and talk about, like, if somebody's kid gave it to him, what? Listen to this shit.
so that's part of it too, but defense experts. But if somebody not affiliated with either of those and who was not subject to the gag order was who gave this stuff to Dateline, then it would not have been a violation.
How did somebody that was not affiliated with the case have it to begin with, Fixler? They just fucking got it from God. Just can't. I just fucking can't. Dude, I'm already getting slap happy, but that shit is fucking out of. This is why Idaho is just, dude, are they dumb? Idaho is dumb. I'm sorry. This is crazy. I can't. This kid, he's got to be joking, right? Maybe he doesn't realize what he's saying. Okay. Fucking A. I have so many friends in Idaho now. And no, I don't think you guys are dumb. I just had to laugh. Oh, fuck.
So that's part of it too. But I'm sure detectives or investigators are looking at, you know, what maybe motivated somebody. I know there's certainly a lot of theories out there about, as there are a lot with this case in general, but as to if it was somebody who affiliated with the defense, what's the game? And with the prosecution, it's also sort of that question. But I can share that in speaking with Steve Gonsalves, the father of Kaylee Gonsalves, for this story, you know, he really felt this upended the case in some ways, and it was a distraction that ultimately led to the plea deal, which was something he and his family did not want. They wanted pursuit of not only a trial, but the death penalty for Brian Kohberger. You know, it wasn't but 6-7 weeks later after this dropped, and then this special prosecutor comes into effect, that a plea deal was reached, as you were first to report. And then there was that change of plea hearing, and, you know, half of the families ended up really turned off by this whole process, and half were in support. So I'm sure they're looking at what the motivation would be, but to your point, I think
they're not in support of it now, though, when they found out they were lied to. Why don't you report on that? That all these families are pissed because they were lied to. The ones that were in support of, like, okay, fine, this plea deal is fine. Then they realized how bad they were lied to, and they were like, oh my God. And that's why they're suing WSU. How do you think all of them are on board to go and do that? It's not for the money.
is challenging, especially when you can't get participation from either those who maybe are responsible or who might be able to point at others who had access to the specific files that ended up being revealed for the very first time on Dateline's episode.
And you mentioned that there's still questions about if this would even be a crime if someone leaked the photos that the gag order didn't apply to. Like, who would that be? Because didn't the gag order pretty much apply to everyone who would have had access?
Sure, but I guess what I'm thinking of is, so let's say it's we're kind of like chain of commanding this, I guess, which is a term that may come up later in the episode. But I guess it's the idea of, like, let's say hypothetically an FBI agent who was on the case, and this is totally hypothetical, but let's say an FBI agent who had access to the information gave it to his son or a retired member of the FBI who's unaffiliated with this case and said, hey, like, check this out. And like, you won't believe this thing from this high profile national case. And that person then had access to it, but happened to be friends with people at Dateline.
Right.
And they gave it to them. I mean, they're not, a former member of law enforcement who's not affiliated with the case would not fall under the gag order.
Oh my God. Dude, when I watched this the other day, I literally felt I had to stop and I had to say, Bella, were you listening to this? Because either I need to quit, because what he is just saying right here is that this is how nobody will get in trouble, is if a person that was actually on the case gave it to his son or like a former FBI person. You guys, right there, that's the leak. It doesn't matter who gave it to Dateline. It doesn't matter if I gave it to Bob and then Bob gave it to Dylan and then Dylan gave it to Susie and then Susie gave it to Dateline. I still gave it to who? I gave it out. I'm getting in trouble. I'm under the gag. Okay? Jesus. That's just fucking so dumb.
They're not affiliated with the prosecution. So, it could be.
They're not affiliated with. Listen, they are affiliated with the prosecution because anybody in law enforcement that was working this case is arms of the prosecution. We learned this in 12th grade. I mean, I did. I learned government.
It's nuanced, right? But it's possible that somebody that was related to a person who was related to the case could have been ultimately the leak, and they were not subject to the gag order. They just happened to themselves receive the information and used it in a way that was maybe not intended by the person who shared it.
It's interesting to think about whether the Dateline episode and the leak had a real impact on the outcome of the case, and did it, like you said, Steve Gonzalez mentioned this. I mean, could it have actually somehow had an impact on the plea deal coming about? And I guess I'm just trying to game that out in my head too. And it's not our job really to, speculate too much, but obviously the defense had all of it. And it's not our job really to, speculate too much, but
right there, this is clipped right there. You see that? That's why I rewinded it. This is like, he was going on about something. He's like, okay, clip.
And I guess I'm just trying to game that out in my head too. And it's not our job really to, speculate too much, but obviously the defense had all of this through discovery. This wasn't like new information or new video that they didn't know about. So it's not like they would have been shocked.
What the fuck are you talking about, Brian? This is stuff that's inadmissible. This is stuff that has zero relevance to the case, and it's not going to come in. Okay, that's half of the problem. Okay, that's like. In the other part of the problem that you're missing is you have the right to a fair trial. Brian, do you not love working and living in the United States of America? Do you not love your freedoms? Jesus Christ.
To see this, oh my gosh, we didn't know that all of this existed. We must take the plea because now we know that there's this video. So I guess I'm just trying to understand how it.
You don't know how this paints? Because you got your blinders so far fucking on and up your ass. Look at the goddamn crime scene. Let's play. If that would have been the leak, the whole cleanup. Yeah, you think Brian Cover would? And everyone's like changing their mind, and all these headlines were like, "We've been lied to by the prosecution. Look at this crime scene." How would that have affected things? How do you think that would have really jolted that would have had an impact, right? A positive one for Brian Kohlberger.
Would have caused a plea deal.
Well, so again, Steve Gonzalez, his thought was, it basically took kind of the air out of the balloon. And as they were, sprinting toward, I think we were 7 weeks out from the scheduled trial when this thing dropped. Or I guess that was maybe the plea deal, but the trial was supposed to start 2 weeks after that. So he just felt it was a distraction. It maybe positioned the prosecution in a weaker way, and maybe it helped the defense in part because Koberger could then argue that he could not receive a fair trial. That's in terms of gaming it out. You would say, look, this has been jeopardized.
You're right. Yeah.
He did say it, you dipshits, and he was penalized for it. Okay, he did make that claim. But my point is that it doesn't matter who the leak is. The person who's suffering from it is the defendant. The person who's right to a fair trial matters, right? And it doesn't matter who fucked it up. That right was violated. And so my question is, and the most important question is does it matter who the leak is? Because Brian Koberger isn't the leak, right? So Brian Koberger gets to watch the state who's paying both sides fuck up and around with his case. Interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
He does not have.
Ann Taylor actually said that, didn't she?
Yes, yes, she did in court that this had upended the opportunity for a fair trial, which is a constitutional right. And so whether or not this would have affected the actual trial or the ability to seat a jury, what it did is it created a potential appeal down the road where you could say, my constitutional rights were violated, a federal problem. And not only could you appeal that, almost certainly in Idaho, had we gone through the trial process and work your way through the appellate court and then the Idaho Supreme Court potentially, but then you could actually file appeals in federal court and say there was no way to seat a fair and impartial jury, based on how this framed who.
My question is how can you still not make that claim?
I am and what was suggested about my character, or that I made certain pornographical searches on my phone.
To hear that there was only 3, my source says that there was only 3 porn searches. 3. I don't know.
It indicated to members of the public who ultimately landed on the jury that I was responsible for.
You guys think that your porn searches should be even admissible? Good question. Lana, how do we ask Brian N who told him to hop a plane to PA before Brian was arrested so he would be there for it? We don't know. I would love to know what the date of his plane ticket, but I know who his source would have been if that happened.
This in an unfair way.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting to think about if it actually had an impact. Also, I'm just thinking of other cases where there's been big.
It's actually interesting to think about it. This is not a question. I cannot believe that he thinks that I have to think about this. And I've just been thinking about this. And I'm just thinking, did it have any effect on what? No, it had no effect. But nobody even has to think about that. Of course it affected it. I just can't even. I just can't even. What? What do you... There's no thinking. Of course it affected it. Fucking A, man. Why do you think there's a gag order?
Leaks. And it happens kind of all the time with high profile cases all over the country. It's not like this Dateline episode with that kind of information and images. Something like that had never happened before.
Tell me when it's happened, Brian. I can't even.
Or you don't always see a criminal investigation. Is this like an Idaho?
What the fuck are you talking about? Tell me when a fucking criminal, tell me when a suspect, their fucking phone is all over the internet. This guy. Lana, thank you for staying up later than you usually do. It's 9. I know I'm fucking doing it because it's Mother's Day. Got a lot of mothers all over, and I just love each and every one of you guys. This is disgusting. This is fucking disgusting. What do you mean? What do you
thing,
mean?
and I always got
This happens all the time, he says. Like a criminal investigation. I mean, this just fucking happens all the time. So people are committing violations of their professional oath all the time to you, Brian? That's good to know.
It indicated to members of the public who ultimately landed on the jury that I was responsible for this in an unfair way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting to think about if it actually had an impact. Also, I'm just thinking of other cases where
Ann Taylor had the right. That's what she wanted to know. She's like, Your Honor, I have a right to know who did this because I want to cross-examine them and say, well, you did what? You gave all of this to Dateline? And why did you do that? And you just gave them select stuff because you had access to all this other stuff. You didn't leak the crime scene photos, right? That showed that there was a big old cleanup. That's how Ann Taylor presented it, like that. You know, I want to be able to cross-examine somebody because I want to know what their motivations were to possibly have leaked this. Because it matters for cross-examination. It matters for impeachment. It matters for credibility with the jury. And Hitler's just like, I'm telling you, how this case was handled, beginning to end, this is not how the United States criminal justice system is supposed to work. Okay? Not in the slightest.
there's been big leaks, and I mean, it happens kind of all the time with high-profile cases all over the country. Like, it's not like this Dateline episode with that kind of information and images, something like that had never happened before. You don't always see a criminal investigation. I mean, is this like an Idaho thing? And I always got the sense like Idaho, like some of the folks who don't love the media, like, you know, even the gag order was so strict from the beginning, that was almost unusual. But you know, you don't always see a criminal investigation to find a leaker this way.
Yeah, I honestly, I can't say. I mean, the other really high-profile cases in Idaho in recent years were the Daybells, and I don't recall there being gag orders in that case.
There
I
wasn't.
kind of have to defer to you. I have not been a long-time criminal justice reporter, and so
Isn't that right? That is right. Mm-hmm. And Brandon's like, I don't know. I mean, I just walk around everywhere. I just weasel my way into places.
not real sure. I mean, at the time, I have to admit, at the time when the gag order was initially issued by the magistrate judge up in Moscow, I was very surprised, and I was like, "Oh man!" I didn't think I tweeted at the time. I was like, "A gag order? Well, like, what are we talking about here?" Like, we were fighting and clawing and scrapping for every piece of information up to Koberger's arrest as it was. You know, this was a law enforcement agency. You know, between.
Who do you guys think the gag order truly helped? Bill Thompson and Ann Taylor wanted it, though. Then I think she wanted it like lifted, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police, it really revealed very little for so long, and then suddenly it gets to court finally. And
what are you talking about? Howard Bloom had all the fucking all the Moscow Police Department reports. He had all of it. Dude, these motherfuckers just like to rewrite history. Rewriting history, man.
They bring Koberger to Idaho, and then it was even like kept, you know, locked tight even more. So I was not as familiar with gag orders and what the circumstances are. Obviously, it was issued and it was maintained as the change of venue came down to Boise. And I'm not sure in terms of how often this is used or how effective is maybe even a greater question, which Stephen Solve is very adamant that he would hate to see gag orders going forward, especially in capital punishment cases, because he felt restricted. His family felt restricted on the things they could say, even though family was not technically part of that. But actually, his attorney was. His attorney, Shannon Gray, did fall under the requirements of the gag order. So they felt like maybe they were muted a bit.
I think that everything should just go through the public docket and there should be no ceiling. You guys, this was the problem with this case. And they're not even explaining this well. The gag order didn't affect anything. It was that when they were filing paperwork, the filings, the motions, that was all being sealed. That's not supposed to be like that, okay? Like, they just don't want you making extrajudicial statements. You're allowed to talk. You're allowed to talk about anything that's public. A gag order is just simply that, you know, you're not speaking about anything that's not public knowledge. You're not speaking you're not impugning anyone's character, reputation, shit like that. But the way that, oh my God, gag order. It's a protective order. They need to stop saying the word gag order. It's a non-dissemination order. Okay? But So the issue with this case is they were filing stuff under seal. And then Hitler's over here like, that's not going to continue on. And what does he do? Lets it continue on. He's a fucking fuck off, Hitler. All the way off. An absolute joke. This whole fucking process was a goddamn circus. But the problem is, fuck the gag order, is that everything was being filed under seal. And that's bullshit. That's not how it's supposed to be. And then now everything's supposed to be unsealed. And now it's being told to halt again because of this stupid fucking investigation of this leak. If there's nothing going to come from it, if the only thing that the worst case scenario here that we're looking at is that somebody's going to be charged with a fucking misdemeanor, but that this in no way, shape, or form can help or hurt Brian Kohlberger or this case. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is all stall tactic for people to figure out like if it could because of Brian's appeals. This is bullshit. Okay. Nobody investigates a misdemeanor like this for a fucking year. For what? It's about to be, we're encroaching on like the year anniversary of Dateline. Hopefully Dateline puts it out again. Right there on the year anniversary. Play the fucking episode that y'all got fucked for. Okay? I'd really appreciate that. That's what I want from my Mother's Day gift. Play the Dateline episode again.
Yeah, I mean, even towards the end, it was still kind of confusing. I remember who the gag order applied to and who didn't. I don't think anybody ever fully figured it out, like exactly what it meant.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's true.
Back to Turvey, though. Brent Turvey, who is one of the defense experts who you mentioned the book Broken Plea, which is this book that came out written by this former FBI agent, Christopher Whitcomb. I did an episode on it with all sorts of theories about why, trying to make the point that Brian Kohlberger could possibly be innocent. And people go back and look at my episode. I try to explain why I don't think that's the case. And number one, I mean, Brian Kohlberger pled guilty and is in jail for murdering, the 4 kids. So
Brian Etten, for you to just say that, and that's like the reason, because he pled guilty, he's guilty. Too bad that's not evidence. It's called a plea deal. What you're basing his innocence or guilt on by you saying that right off the rip, that's not evidence. You understand that, sweetheart, right? Okay.
It sort of is what it is. But back to him, it's interesting because you talked to him. So he's saying that he didn't want to talk to this investigator looking into the leak.
Yeah, that's right. He said that he had received multiple messages over some span of time. I'm trying to recall if they were voicemails or emails, but he told me he has just not responded. He has no interest.
But he was willing to talk to, I guess, reporters and the author of the book?
Because it wasn't about the leak, Brian. The book wasn't about the leak. The fuck are you... But he was willing to do that? God, his bias is just really showing.
Well, not necessarily about the leak.
Exactly, thank you. I could fuck with Kevin Fixer all day, okay? Because I would just straighten him out. I would just say, yeah, I think you don't understand, Kevy, babe. We'd be back in the studio, and I'd be like, yo, just so you know, whoever leaked it and gave it to Bobby Sue Joe fucking Clammy Clam, that's the leak. It does not matter who gave it to Dateline. Okay, it matters on who gave it out, period.
He was talking about what he saw as flaws in the defense case and maybe the decision to whether pursue or accept. I mean, there's some nuance there in this case, a plea deal.
See, pursue or accept, because there's some nuance there. That means we don't know actually who came to who with the plea deal. Kevin Fixer just basically said that. Like we're not sure on that.
I guess reporters and the author of the book?
Well, not necessarily about the leak. I mean, he was talking about what he saw as flaws in the defense.
Not necessarily about the leak. That's not. It's fucking goddamn Brian. Fucking whoop.
Case and maybe the decision to whether pursue or accept. I mean, there's some nuance there in this case, a plea deal. So he spoke specifically to me. This is before.
We're talking about evidence in the case, right? I mean,
yeah, that's right.
He did. So I guess what's the difference? Like, why wouldn't you talk to the...
What's the difference between talking to a cop or talking to somebody that's writing a book? Dead. Officially dead. Fucking dead. This episode is the fucking best episode ever. If you want to really truly know who you are listening to obtain your information. I'm dead. What's the difference between talking to a cat? What's the Brian, just go talk to cops, man. They're your What's the difference? You know what I'm saying? Fucking A, I'm sorry. That's the dumbest thing I heard all day. Happy Mother's Day, Lana. Molly, you in danger, girl. Brian Anton, you in danger, boy. What the fuck you're talking about? Dude, oh my God. Dead. I can't even breathe.
I'm trying to figure out like what the difference with talking to the investigator about the leak is versus talking to everybody about what was secret evidence in the case.
Well,
Somebody make that a meme.
I guess it's the difference of court or the court of public opinion. And
yeah,
I'm not here with a subpoena and either forcing him to speak with me or making any sort of criminal demands upon him.
I fucking love it. Kevin Fixer's just like, I guess I have to explain this to you. And he's like, well, I'm not like, I don't have subpoena power. And I'm not like, he's explaining like, there's a big difference, bud. Whoo. Oh my God. Let's hear Kevin Fixer answer this again. He's like, are you really asking me that?
Specifically to me, this is before
we're talking about evidence in the case, right? I mean,
yeah, that's
even
right.
we did. So I guess what's the difference? Like, why wouldn't you talk to the, I'm trying to figure out like what the difference with talking to the investigator about the leak is versus talking to everybody about what was secret evidence in the case.
Well, I guess it's the difference of court or the court of public opinion. And
yeah,
I'm not here with a subpoena and either forcing him to speak with me or making any sort of criminal demands upon him. He got to use.
Did you not understand that? Okay, now I can't unsee it. I just was having like Kevin Fixer, like, so I was looking at both of them and I just realized I'm like, wow, Brian Enton's eyes are really far apart. I just never realized that until this episode. Oh, interesting.
The conversation to advocate for either certain findings of his and what he found as problematic in the case and why he felt that Brian Kohberger may have been acquitted or is not involved in this case. And he spoke about flaws specifically. I mean, the primary focus of my interview with him was about this chain of custody issue he has raised over the knife sheath and its delivery to the Idaho State Crime Lab just outside of Boise. And basically how this thing had changed hands multiple times from the crime scene between different investigators, between different, it was the Idaho State Police and Moscow Police Department that had overseen this thing and including in the evidence room at Moscow. And he pointed out that this thing lacked these handwritten signatures as it was passed off. What I will share, and people are certainly welcome to go to the Idaho Statesman website and read my story, but what experts both in the legal realm and also law enforcement, including law enforcement involved in the case, told me was like, that's just not how it's done anymore. There are barcode scans, and if need be, they would have brought each of the experts or each of the members of law enforcement onto the stand under oath and said, hey, Brett Payne, did you find this thing at the crime scene? And he would say yes. And then
that's not what he's just saying, though. Brett Turby is talking about the fact that the knife sheath was found on the floor.
They would say, what did you do with it then? And he would say, well, I checked it into the evidence at Moscow Police Department. And then they would have brought the evidence person.
Did he, though? Did he know? Did he leave it at the house? Because they just left everything else there until the next day. I mean, this is the only piece of evidence we're taking tonight. That sheath, goddamn. Sorry. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right, guys. I've done enough of a live tonight.
I got then said, oh well,
we got a big week ahead of us. I gotta see what the hell happened earlier, but
I received it on this date, and then it went out on this date to this particular ISP trooper, who then drove it down. That person would say, this person would say, and they can do that, and they can establish chain of custody that way. It's not really controversial, according to, again, members of the legal world in Idaho, and even a defense attorney who's very experienced told me, like, there's no issue, according to what Brent Turby claims, based on the information he provided. So that was the primary focus of what he wanted to speak about. He also did talk to me about Ann Taylor a bit, and then Ann Taylor ultimately was very upset and issued a public statement about with the other defense attorneys about Turby, suggesting that he was violating his confidentiality agreement, which he was still under. So that was another story I wrote, and Turby denied that. He said that he had not violated, according to his perspective, this confidentiality agreement.
It's because everything he's talked about, he's claiming that it's, well, my question is if they have a non-disclosure about their opinions on this case, well, isn't his whole report his opinion? You know what I mean? And that's out there, right? Or portions are.
He said these weren't secrets. None of the things he handed out, if he handed things out, were not in the public realm. These were things that were available to people already. So he did not feel Ann Taylor's allegations were accurate.
It just seems so peculiar for a defense expert paid for by the defense.
Okay. Every expert, whether you are a prosecution expert, okay, or a defense expert, you are paid. Do you understand that, Brian Etten? Both sides are paid. And in this case, since it's a state-funded defense, the government is paying. We, the taxpayers, are paying experts to go and testify in criminal proceedings, both for the state and for the defendant, if they are being represented by the state. Do you understand that? So if I hear one more fucking person mention about the fact that the defense pays their experts, so does the prosecution. Everybody gets paid because it's their goddamn fucking job. Do you get paid, Brian?
Like Ann Taylor paid him essentially to then go behind Ann Taylor's back and start talking to the media, talk to this guy writing a book. Basically,
He thinks Ann Taylor paid him. Brian, the taxpayers paid him. Okay.
you know, calling out things about the case. I don't know. It just, I'm not.
You have no idea what Brent Turvey is saying because did you even read the book? Did you ever interview him? Like, you have no idea. Like, I don't even know. He's just going behind her back. Like, I have no idea what Brent Turvey said. I've never talked to him.
I was surprised though to see Ann Taylor issue that press release, which I saw you had first, and then I went and got it. Because she never said anything throughout all of this. I mean, so you got the sense that like this especially ticked her off, like for her to actually, I mean, literally the woman
Ticked her off?
never put out any kind of statement to the press, not
So what do you think about that?
even one time, despite, you know, everything coming at her for years. But this was the thing that I think set her over the edge.
Right. Well, as a reminder, she was also bound by the gag order. And
As a reminder, Brian. As a reminder, Brian, she could not say a fucking word. You understand?
and would invoke that when need be to say, you know, I can't speak about attorney-client privileged matters, and didn't even do that. I mean, she kind of called out the press a number of times in court hearings and so forth, and was very careful, you know, even in the courtroom hallways and things like that, I recall. But there was, not to correct you, but there was one tiny...
No, please correct me, Kevin. That's what you do behind the scenes. So let's do it for the viewing audience.
There was...
There you go. There you go. Yes. Here we go. Let's just be real here. Thank you. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. See, that's what we want to see right there. Real. Well, you do it all the time behind the scenes. Like, correct. So, God, thank you so much, Brian.
There was one
Just kidding. Just kidding. I know everything. No, he's not kidding.
Tiny statement that she had made when the gag order finally dropped ahead of sentencing, and it was the tiniest of statements that was signed by each of the four public defenders, including herself, that basically said, we're not going to talk about this case, and that was it.
That's right. I think we were all inundating her with requests for interviews and stuff, right when it was over.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, hey, the gag order may not be in effect anymore, but we're not talking. You know, we have a duty to our clients, and the confidentiality of the case, ethical obligations, basically buzz off. We're not speaking about it. So, you know, look through that lens and the fact that she then issues this scathing, declaration about her.
It was scathing. It was.
These actions, and basically told anybody who would listen, like his conduct should be, viewed through that lens, and essentially like, you going to work with this guy? I mean, I think she was challenging other defense teams down the road. Like, are you going to use this expert based on how he has conducted himself?
Yep, exactly. Well, guys, tomorrow night, that's where we're going to end it. Tomorrow night, right? Custody Queens. We'll do a little pregame here. We'll get us ready. I'll go through the book tomorrow morning, and I'll get all of our Brent Turvey, what I believe is his, quotes and stuff like that. We'll focus on, if this is true, how important is all of this within the larger investigation? Huge, Turvey said with a nod, because the first people at the scene, the first documentation at the scene does not indicate its position. It isn't even mentioned by first responders, and that is a huge deal. If you walk into the room and you walk around the corner of the bed, you're going to see it. Talk about the sheath. That's what I think the biggest thing is. Is the sheath, was it on the floor? Was it on the bed? But yet nobody that's a first responder mentions even seeing it. We got all these body cams on and no one's like, oh my God, did you see that fucking sheath that was up there? Nada. Nothing. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys so much. Happy Mother's Day to all the awesome moms out there. You guys are fabulous. Fabulous. So again, thank you to all the super chatters, super sickers. Wow, it's 1:00 in the morning. Fuck, we gotta go. Peace out. Thank you. Just again, moms, keep rocking it. When I have 3 Turvey forensic books, I can send you PDFs. I would love the PDFs. Hell yeah. Send them away. All right, guys. Good night.